Chapter 454. The head disciple of the Drifting Snow Martial School, Ling Hanya, looked interested. With Wang Qi here, perhaps we can see something? The battle was not over yet, so he would not say who would win or lose for sure. Wang Qi was powerful, and was not weaker than him. Yi Chen was also hiding his power, and would not be easy to deal with. Therefore, in his opinion, this battle would be 50-50, unlike what most people thought, where Yi Chen would lose for sure. Sister Feng, who do you think will win? Qingzhu asked Feng Yanro. Feng Yanro said with a low voice, I think it will be Yi Chen. Qingzhu was not surprised at all. Regardless of whether she admitted it or not, Yi Chen was indeed very powerful. The 100 wins in a row in the Blue Mountain Island was the proof. It was Ling Hanya who was surprised by Feng Yanro's opinion. He already thought highly of Yi Chen, but Feng Yanro thought even more highly of him. Your power is not bad, but if this is all you have, you will not be my opponent. Wang Qi had already formed the shape of his martial spirit 2 years ago, and right now, it had already reached the critical point. He was only one step away from the real martial spirit. Besides that, his top-rank Earth Realm martial art had also reached the peak of the 13th realm, and he had completely learned a top-rank Earth Realm martial art. He had also learned a profound sense martial art, and had also trained it to 40% completion. With this many ace attacks, Wang Qi did not worry about Yi Chen at all. His opponents would be Ling Hanya and the Beast Prince Mo Xiang. Only these people would be able to make him use all of his power. For him, Yi Chen would only be a bit more troublesome. The corner of Yi Chen's mouth curled up. You will change your mind soon. Oh yeah? That would depend on whether you are qualified or not. Red Water Godly Fist. Wang Qi's eyes turned cold. As he crossed his arms, he performed the exclusive martial art of the Red Water Martial School, the Red Water God Fist art. In Wang Qi's hand, the power of this fist art was a couple of times more powerful than the Red Water God Fist art that Huang Kaishan had performed. The powerful fist power was like a tsunami, each wave higher than the last. Green Lotus Mountain Splits. Yi Chen wasn't afraid of the surging fist energy at all. He tapped his foot on the ground and leapt out like a bolt of lightning. He raised his greenwood sword high above his head and swung it down vertically. The sword light, which was engraved with a towering green lotus, tore apart the sky and slashed out with a mountain-splitting and earth-splitting power. An earth-shaking explosion was heard. Wang Qi's fist power had been shattered by the sword light, and Yi Chen's sword light had also been shattered by the explosion. In the first exchange, Yi Chen had the upper hand. Not bad. You deserve me to be a little more serious. Wang Qi's expression did not change at all. He had expected Yi Chen to have this kind of power. If not, then he had overestimated himself. Increasing his Zhen Yuan to another level, Wang Qi bent his knees slightly and his whole body shot up into the sky, throwing out a punch towards Yi Chen. There was nothing fancy about this punch. It was just faster, more brutal, and more aggressive. Under the push of the water mentality, purple lightning had even appeared in the fist power, which was caused by the power of the punch. Facing this powerful punch, Yi Chen shook his wrist and stabbed out with his greenwood sword. A dot of sword light accumulated on the tip of the sword, eventually turning into a green lotus and shooting out. Pooh! A subtle clashing sound was heard. Wang Qi's fist power and the green lotus that had been formed by the sword light had been destroyed together. The water and sword qi were like fountains, shooting out in all directions. This blast wave alone could kill a lot of normal astral-reaching realm warriors within seconds. His body, which was gliding backward, suddenly turned around. Wang Qi had not only taken out that aggressive radiation power, but had also guided that power into a huge swirl. With the centrifugal power of the swirl, he opened his hands and dove down from the sky like an eagle. Strong water swirl. As he punched out, all the water elemental energy in the sky and on the ground was sucked dry. Along with the fist power, the water elemental energy started to spin crazily, forming a flat whirlpool that was constantly shrinking. This flat whirlpool was so condensed and sharp that it even made a sharp whistling sound as it tore through the air. It was indeed the last movement of his red water godly fist art, which was equivalent to a profound sense martial art with 30% of its power. Being performed by Wang Qi, its power was even more powerful. Sky Thunder Cut. Right then, the separating shadow flying art would definitely not be used, since that swirl contained a very powerful suction power. If it was not powerful enough to break through, it would be impossible for him to use his speed to get out of the attacking range. Therefore, he would have to find the best angle to break through the swirl. Performing his sword steps, Yi Chen used his body as a sword, stabbing out to the right side of the swirl. At the same time, the greenwood sword in his hand had been replaced by the thunder sword. He held the sword tightly with both of his hands, holding it horizontally in front of his chest as he sliced through the swirl. Crack! All of these movements had been completed within a second. Once the sword tip sliced through, the sword light with electric light exploded from the inside of the swirl. What? You broke the swirl? Wang Qi's pupils shrank. Take one sword attack from me. After breaking the swirl with one sword attack, Yi Chen did not change his direction at all. He threw out countless sword lights towards Wang Qi while his whole body approached him. Piss off! Wang Qi threw out both of his fists continuously. His fist aura had reached its peak within a second, giving people a feeling like a dam that was filled with water had suddenly been broken, and a huge wave had poured out. Chin 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 chin. The fist tip and the sword tip continued to clash together, bringing up bright sparks. The burning chi waves had even shaved off the surface of the platform layer after layer, shooting out in all directions. Hit! The thunder sword curved into a shocking arc as Yi Chen suddenly bounced out. His left pinky finger and index finger shot out two beams of sword chi, shooting out with a hissing sound. Not good! Wang Qi had not expected Yi Chen's fingers to be able to shoot out sword chi as well, so he only had enough time to throw out a punch to shatter the first beam of sword chi. The second beam of sword chi had pierced through his protective Jin Yuan, bringing out a large amount of blood. What? The Red Water Man was wounded? He was wounded by one sword chi attack from Yi Chen, shooting out sword chi from his hand. How unexpected! Have you guys noticed that from the beginning to the end, Yi Chen has always had the upper hand? No matter how much he increases his power, he cannot turn the situation around. Doesn't this mean that the Red Water Man is not Yi Chen's opponent at all? Most of the people had their mouths wide open, not knowing what to say. In the square formation of the Thunder region, the young master of beasts Emo Xiang rubbed his chin and laughed. I guess what I said outside the city must have been taken as a joke by them. The Thunder Princess glanced at him. What joke? Nothing. I just made a big mistake. I thought he was just a normal warrior. Emo Xiang thought that he was more powerful than the Red Water Man, and since Yi Chen was able to beat him with a slight advantage, even if he was not as powerful as him, it would not be that much weaker. It is just a small mistake. It is impossible for people to not make mistake. But, as long as the mistake is still within one's tolerance, why should one care? The speaker was an evil-looking young man wearing a long robe with a gold crown on his head. His eyes were long and narrow, and he had a cynical look on his face. Emo Xiang chuckled and said, "It seems like the young leader is very confident." The young leader he was talking about was the young leader of the Shining Martial School, which was a rank 5 martial institution in the Thunder region. The current leader was his great-grandfather, the Shining King. As the descendant of the Life and Death Realm warrior, Yin Zhongli was very talented, and his comprehensive ability was not low either. In fact, at the level of the southern region, the King bloodline was not that rare. The key was still whether or not one could fully activate it. Same here, Yin Zhongli said with a lazy face. The martial tea gathering was in the spirit of competition, So the Thunder Princess was just about to announce the result when Wang Qi yelled, "Princess Jing, we are not done yet." The Thunder Princess said, "Wang Qi, winning and losing are normal things for warriors. You do not need to worry about it." Wang Qi tried to explain, "It was just a moment of carelessness on my part. If I lose, then it would be unfair. Don't worry, I will only need one attack. One attack, and I will beat him." "All right then." The Thunder Princess nodded. Looking back at Yi Chen, Wang Qi's pupils started to turn red. "Very well. I did not expect that I would be wounded by you because of carelessness. But, if you think that you have beaten me for sure, then you are very wrong. The next attack, I want you to accept your defeat." Yi Chen did not seem to care. "I will." Yi Chen's attitude had pissed Wang Qi off. He did not say another word as his aura rushed out like a flood. It was getting stronger and stronger. The auras clashed with each other, bringing up a cracking sound. Waves of invisible holes started to spread out. Water Beast Fist Wave. Wang Qi's ace attack was naturally the low-rank profound sense martial art of the Red Water Martial School, Water Beast Fist Wave. Different from Huang Kaishan, Wang Qi had already trained this profound sense martial art to 40%, which meant that its power was way more powerful than the fierce water swirl. Pushing his Zhen Yuan to its limit, Wang Qi threw out 18 punches towards Yi Chen. Each punch was like a whirlpool. 18 whirlpools spread out in the air, blocking Yi Chen's escape route. The whirlpools merged together, leaving behind 6 huge whirlpools that were the size of a stone mill. They formed a 6-pointed star, attacking towards where Yi Chen was standing. At that moment it seemed like time had stopped. Water Beast Fist Wave has increased my battling power by 3 times. It has combined defense, attack, and locking all at the same time. Let me see how you are going to block it out. After battling for a while, Wang Qi was very clear about Yi Chen's power. Therefore, he was sure that Yi Chen would not be able to block it out. Even if it were him, he would not be able to block it out either. Once he performed his Water Beast Fist Wave, it would be a piece of cake for him to beat someone stronger than him. Plus, Yi Chen's power was only at the same level as his. Facing this horrifying fist attack, Yi Chen's expression did not change at all. "You think that was all I had before? I have never liked to use my absolute power to beat my opponent. For me, it is more fun to beat my opponents with technique." His sword intent shot up into the sky. The space around Yi Chen started to twist a little, making it impossible to see his body clearly. All that could be seen was the twisted space suddenly disappearing. Yi Chen took a step out and threw out a sword attack towards the 6 huge whirlpools. It was a slanted sword attack without any fancy moves, but the sword intent contained in it was enough to shock everyone. This extremely powerful sword intent had reached beyond the limits of an astral-reaching realm warrior, reaching the Sea of Souls realm. With the help of that horrifying sword intent, this sword attack of Yi Chen's was unbelievably fast and heavy. With one sword attack, the poetic perspective of the Water Beast Fist Wave had been broken. Boom! The thick electric arc shot out in all directions, shattering Wang Qi's fist power completely. He himself even puked out a little bit of blood. Chapter 455. I did not sense it wrong, did I? This is the sword spirit level sword intent. Indeed. This is indeed the sword spirit level sword intent. Perhaps he has formed a real sword spirit? I remember that it is much harder for a sword artist to form a sword spirit than a warrior to form a martial spirit. Although some of them have reached the Sea of Souls realm, they still might not be able to form a sword spirit. The attacking power of the sword intent is already more powerful than the martial intent. Right now, there is even a gap of 1 level between them. Wang Qi's loss is understandable. Like a tornado, all of the young warriors from different regions started to discuss crazily. Inside the Thunder region, Mo Xiang looked at the Thunder Princess with surprise and asked, "Did he really form a sword spirit?" Forming a sword spirit meant too much. In the whole southern region, It seemed like only the Edict Prince had formed a martial spirit. Even the Thunder Princess and the Astral Spirit Son had not done it yet. The Thunder Princess shook her head. Although its power is not weaker than the Sword Spirit level Sword Intent, but if I sense it carefully, there is still a slight difference. If I have guessed it right, he should have learned the Elemental Sword Intent earlier, which is a couple of times more powerful than the normal Sword Intent. It should be comparable to the Sword Spirit level Sword Intent. Elemental Sword Intent. Mo Xiang and Yin Zhongli exchanged a look, their expressions becoming more and more serious. The young warriors who had come here could be divided into 3 levels. Without exaggeration, Yi Chen was already in the 3rd level. His advantage in terms of sword spirit was something that no one else could compete with. Elemental Sword Intent. Mo Xiang and Yin Zhongli were not the only ones who were shocked. The 2 young men in black robes, sitting next to Xikong Sheng, were also shocked. As one of the Evil King Pavilion's 7 knights, they had a lot of experience. Naturally, they could tell that Yi Chen had not formed a sword spirit yet. The reason why this sword intent was so powerful was because of its intense killing element. No wonder you value him so much. He is indeed not a normal sword artist. The 7th knight let out a breath slowly and said to Xikong Sheng. Xikong Sheng knocked on the table with his fingers and said, "A couple of years ago, I knew that it would not be that easy to beat him. But the power he has shown so far is not enough to surprise me. I hope that he has more powerful ace attack. Otherwise, it would be too boring." Hee, you are such a crazy man. The 7th knight and the 6th knight forced a smile. On the field, Yi Chen and Wang Qi were completely different. Yi Chen still looked handsome and elegant. Holding his long sword, he looked clean and spotless. Wang Qi was in a much more difficult situation. His clothes were torn, his lips were stained with blood, and his hair was messed up by the strong wind. He no longer looked like the little master Redwater. "You!" Before he could say anything, Wang Qi spat out another mouthful of blood. He was so angry that he became muddle-headed. Previously, he had confidently said that he would defeat Yi Chen in one move, leaving no room for him to turn the tables. Not only did he fail to achieve his goal, but he was also instantly killed by Yi Chen. The dramatic ending gave him a hard slap in the face, making him dizzy and wishing that he could never wake up in this life. How is this possible? How could I lose to him? This is impossible. It should not be. I am the #1 young warrior in the Wavy Cloud region, and he is only a warrior from the South Rudra region. After puking out a mouthful of blood, Wang Qi looked like he had lost his soul. Yi Chen sighed. Was it really that embarrassing to be beaten by himself? Not to mention the others, besides the top 3 dragon-level martial geniuses, the rest of them did not make him feel like fighting at all. Of course, most of them probably did not think that they would have the power to challenge a true dragon-level warrior. Wang Qi, you have lost. Get down now. The Thunder Princess reminded Wang Qi so that he would not continue to lose face. After all, his opponent was the face of the Wavy Cloud region. Wang Qi lifted up his head, looking a bit lost. In the Gold Sand region formation, the aggressive astral spirit Sun sneered. Trash! You have lost the battle and the formation. The purple-haired beauty right next to the astral spirit Sun laughed. Things have been a little different from what you had expected. It is normal for you to lose your soul. But this Yi Chen is not simple. He has beaten the Wavy Cloud region with his own power and brought the South Rudra region to the 2nd level. Even if someone from the South Rudra region manages to surpass him in the future, no one would forget his contribution. Wang Qi, why are you so fixated on what is right in front of you? Right then, the Edict Prince spoke. His voice seemed to contain a kind of power that could make one's heart clear. As soon as it reached everyone's ears, they all became serious and cleared their thoughts. When it reached Wang Qi's ears, his messy eyes started to focus again, and he regained his spirit. With a blush on his face, Wang Qi knew that the Edict Prince had helped him out and saved him from losing face. He held his fists together and said, "Thank you." The Edict Prince sighed. Winning and losing are normal things for warriors. If you want to never lose in your life, you have to have an unyielding spirit. You have lost for real this time. Get down now. Yes. Wang Qi had a bitter look on his face. As he brushed past Yi Chen, he said with a light voice, "This time, you have won. Next time, I will not lose." Yi Chen did not say anything. Beating him was already enough, so there was no need to break his confidence. Head disciple has lost as well. Huang Caishen's expression was even more bitter than Wang Qi's. In the Blue Mountain Island Challenge tournament, he had suffered a crushing defeat to Yi Chen without even the slightest chance to fight back. He originally thought that his head disciple would beat Yi Chen in this tea gathering and let him see Yi Chen's face of defeat. However, the heavens seemed to be against him. Even his head disciple, who was so powerful in his heart, had been defeated, and it was a clean defeat without any trace of force. Better not mess with him. We can't afford to mess with him. Huang Caishen made up his mind to not mess with Yi Chen anymore. In fact, he did not dare to mess with Yi Chen. Otherwise, how could he expect Wang Qi to beat Yi Chen? Sister Feng is right. It seems like head disciple's insight is not as good as Sister Feng's. Qingzhu teased Ling Hanya, who was in front of her. Ling Hanya forced a laugh. I was wrong. Since even Wang Qi was not his opponent, then I would not be his opponent either. He is almost at the 3rd level. There were not many warriors at the 3rd level. There were 3 to 4 warriors in the Thunder region, 2 to 3 in the Floating Light region, and 2 to 3 in the Gold Sand region. All the other regions had 1 each or none at all, plus Yi Chen. As for the rest of the hidden warriors, they had not been exposed yet. The climax of the tea gathering was still far from starting. Yi Chen has won. Our South Rudra region's status has surpassed the Wavy Cloud region. Mu Lingfeng was very excited, even more excited than when he had beaten Wang Qi to a Baku. Chuckled, "Just watch. The next tea gathering will depend on you guys." "Yes, I will work even harder." Before he came, Mu Lingfeng was more or less proud, thinking that he was not weaker than anyone. The only pity was that he did not have the chance to fight with Yi Chen and the rest of the warriors in the Hidden Dragon rank competitions. Right now, he finally knew that if he wanted to reach the level of Yan Qihua and Li Daoxian, he would have to train with all his might. Which one of the martial geniuses here was not talented enough? However, if he wanted to reach the level of Yi Chen, it would not be something that could be done in a day. In the pavilion next to them, Li Daoxian said, "He is still ahead of us. It seems like if we want to catch up to him, we will have to spend our whole lives." Yan Qihua said with determination, "Even if we have to, we will have to catch up to him. If Yi Chen wants to catch up, then someone else will have to catch up as well. Don't forget, he is the only one in the whole South Rudra region who can compete with Yi Chen." Li Daoxian looked at Xikong Sheng, who was wearing black robes. He was even more mysterious than before, and it was all because of Yi Chen. Thinking about how even Xikong Sheng had been pushed to this extent by Yi Chen, Li Daoxian could not help but admire him. Yan Qihua also glanced at Xikong Sheng and said, "Catching up to someone is always better than having no one to catch up to. Especially seeing the martial geniuses out there." Li Daoxian nodded, indeed. Catching up to them will make us improve even faster. I also believe that since we can catch up to them, we will be able to catch up to the whole world as well. Li Daoxian asked himself if it were not for Yi Chen, he would not be as powerful as he was right now. Only with pressure would there be motivation. After beating Wang Qi, Yi Chen had already won 3 times in a row. His reputation was catching up to the Beast Prince, Mo Xiang and the others. Still not going down? He is not planning to challenge all the way, is he? Arrogant. Although the Red Water Man is powerful, there are still people who are more powerful than him. Especially the Thunder region, the Floating Light region, and the Gold Sand region, the top 5 regions, which one of them is not more powerful than the Red Waterman? It seems like the 3 winds have made him a bit dizzy. It is not that easy to become famous in one go. Just you wait. Someone will go up and beat him until he wakes up. I wonder who else besides the Thunder Princess and the Astral Spirit Sun will go up to challenge him. Seeing that Yi Chen did not plan to go down, a lot of people got angry. They thought that Yi Chen was too arrogant and did not care about anyone else. Yi Chen did not know what they were thinking, and even if he did, he would not care. The reason why he stayed was not to challenge the top 3 true dragon-level warriors, because the martial tea gathering was not a challenge. If you wanted to challenge someone, you would have to see if they were interested or not. The reason why he stayed was to bring the South Rudra region to the top of the 2nd level. After doing all that, he would not care about the battles at this level anymore, and the others would not dare to look down on the South Rudra region either. Just beating one Wang Qi? I, the Black Sword Artist, would like to challenge you. A teenager in black robes with a black sword on his back flew out. Besides that sharp sword aura, there was also that evil qi that seemed to want to devour people. It was an evil qi that only people who had killed thousands of people would have. The evil qi combined with the sword aura, and with just a thought it could almost make people hallucinate. It was indeed the number 1 warrior of the Black Gold region, the Black Sword Artist, also known as the leader of the Black Gold region's top 4. It had been rumored that his power was at the same level as Wang Jilin and Hanya. You use a sword, and I also use a sword. Let's see whose sword technique is more lethal. The Black Sword Artist was very confident in his sword art. His sword art was different from the others, as it only aimed for killing. He believed that killing was the ultimate goal of his sword art. As he finished talking, the Black Sword Artist took out the huge black sword on his back and waved out a heavy sword attack. Crack! The platform was shattered, and the black sword light carried a sharp killing chi as it shot out. Wherever it went, it brought up a storm. What? The Black Sword Artist has also learned the Slaughter Sword Intent? Slaughter Sword Intent versus Slaughter Sword Intent. No wonder the Black Sword Artist is so confident. Before learning the Slaughter Sword Intent, the Black Sword Artist's power was at the same level as Wang Qi, but after learning it, Wang Qi would not be able to compete with the Black Sword Artist without a doubt. Everyone thought that the Black Gold region would be weaker than the Wavy Cloud region and the Misty Snow region. But once the Black Sword Artist showed up, he had told everyone that under his leadership, the Black Gold region would not be something that the other 2 regions could compete with. Flashing his body to avoid the sword light, Yi Chen was a bit surprised. It was his first time facing someone else's sword intent, and he could tell that the Black Sword Artist was way more powerful than Wang Qi. Chapter 456. Rumble! Rumble! Another 2 black sword lights shot out. These black sword lights were extremely violent, creating black tornadoes as they attacked towards Yi Chen from both sides. His clothes and long black hair danced in the air as Yi Chen held the thunder sword and slashed horizontally. Crack! With the 2 of them as the center, the space began to distort, and the airflow was sucked in, unable to escape. The sword light that had created the black tornado suddenly shattered, causing the surrounding platform to be full of holes, and not a single spot was left unscathed. The Slaughter Sword Intent is too frightening. This tea gathering is indeed full of hidden dragons and crouching tigers. There are actually 2 sword geniuses who have comprehended the Slaughter Sword Intent. Together with Gold Sand Region's Life Taker Ling Zhua, the 3 of them are the top 3 sword artists of this tea gathering. Yeah, Life Taker Ling Zhua is indeed not to be underestimated. 1 year ago, he had defeated Gold Sand Region's former number 2, Wan Zhuoming. His strength is just below Astral Spirit Sun. I wonder who will have the last laugh among the top 3 sword artists? Everyone discussed spiritedly, and they were rather interested. Raising his black sword artist looked at Yi Chen from afar and said indifferently, I am not like other sword artists. Once my sword leaves its sheath, I want to see blood. Otherwise, my mind will not be smooth. You better be prepared for serious injuries, or else you will blame me for not reminding you. Yi Chen smiled slightly. This blood might not be mine. It might be yours. Yi Chen's voice was not loud, and his expression was not cold or serious, but everyone could clearly feel a strong will coming from him. Although his attitude is arrogant, I have to admit that this person is not simple. Facing black sword artist who has comprehended the slaughter sword intent, he dares to speak like this. I wonder if it is his nature or if he is confident. What kind of confidence does he need to have to dare to say such words? Without a doubt, Yi Chen's words had enraged black sword artist. He said coldly, whose blood it is we will know soon. Wolf killing. Black sword artist's right foot moved half a step as he slashed down with his black sword. The brutal black sword light was like a hot knife cutting through butter, carrying the howling of a wolf as it slashed towards Yi Chen. Break! Flying into the air, Yi Chen shattered the black sword light with one sword attack. His left hand reached out from the side of his waist. 2 beams of green lotus sword chi shot out with a swishing sound. This move is useless against me. Black sword artist reached out his left hand as well. His index finger and middle finger clasped onto his thumb, shooting out 2 black finger energies. The finger energies were like blades, blocking the green lotus sword chi in the air. Puff, puff. Black sword artist had underestimated the green lotus sword chi in the end. Although his finger art was not weak, it was still no match for the green lotus sword chi that Yi Chen had hidden inside his body. The black finger power paused for a second before shattering immediately, releasing 2 circular shockwaves. The shockwaves spread out very fast, but still could not catch up to the speed of the green lotus sword chi. Ding ding! Left with no choice, the black sword swordsman raised his black greatsword. 2 sparks exploded in the air in front of his chest. What kind of sword chi is this? It is not weaker than the sword chi from a great sword at all. It might even be a bit stronger? Black sword artist originally thought that Yi Chen had cultivated some kind of finger art, causing the finger energy to be similar to sword chi, but not as powerful as sword chi. But now, he realized that he was wrong. The might of these 2 strands of sword chi far surpassed ordinary sword chi. The black sword artist was surprised, but so was Yi Chen. He knew the power of the green lotus sword chi better than anyone else. Under normal circumstances, the sword chi that he used with his mid-rank great sword would not even be as powerful as the green lotus sword chi. Only the sword chi from his ace attacks would be able to suppress the green lotus sword chi. However, his opponent was able to use his finger power to reduce the sword chi's power by half, which meant that it must be a top-rank Earth Realm finger art. Only a top-rank Earth Realm finger art could do this. I have already used up 4 beams of my green lotus sword chi. I will not use them again if I can. The green lotus sword chi was his ace in close combat. Yi Chen did not want others to know his bottom line. Seizing the chance when the black sword artist had shattered the green lotus sword chi, Yi Chen's body suddenly dropped down. The 1,000-meter-long sword light was like a heavenly sword as it slashed down. Break for me. If it were a normal sword artist, they would definitely focus on defense and focus on defending against Yi Chen's heavy attack. However, in the dictionary of the black sword artist, there was no concept of defense. He opened his mouth and roared. His black hair stood up while his inky black chi shot up into the sky, accompanying the huge black sword in his hand to meet the incoming sword light. Boom! The 2 swords clashed, and a dark blue energy ball appeared out of nowhere. At first, it was only the size of a pinky finger, but after half a blink of an eye, it had expanded to 1 meter. Not good. Everyone, block out the energy wave. The Thunder Princess frowned. Her voice was pushed by her Jin Yuan, spreading out at a supersonic speed. At the same time, she waved her slender palm, and a crystal-clear Zhen Yuan wall flickering with thunder and lightning rose up, blocking the entire pavilion behind it. It then spread out to both sides, connecting with the Zhen Yuan walls created by the others. Waiting until all the Zhen Yuan walls were connected into a circle, sealing off the entire mountain pointer stage, the dark blue energy ball exploded. Because the sound of the explosion was too loud, no one could hear it. They could only see a dazzling light in front of them as the Zhen Yuan walls were weakened bit by bit. Then, the energy wave that had nowhere to vent shot up into the sky, turning into a 2 li thick energy light beam that shot up into the sky, tearing apart the stunning sky barrier. Looking from the outside of the Thunder Capital, the energy beam that seemed to connect the sky and the earth was extremely eye-catching. Everyone in the Thunder Capital secretly sucked in a breath of cold air. They had no idea how popular the biennial martial tea gathering was. Such a frightening momentum was clearly not something an ordinary person could create. Rumble! The energy light beam dissipated, and only then did a loud boom spread out in all directions. However, there was no one on the stage. Yi Chen and the Black Sword artist had both disappeared. Yi Chen, it's time for you to take my sword. Up in the sky, the Black Sword artist's figure appeared. Both of his hands were gripping the huge black sword, raising it high above his shoulders. Then, he exerted his strength through his spine, transferring it to the muscles of his arms before finally pouring it into his palms in an explosive manner. Swoosh! A black waning moon suddenly appeared, and an extremely frightening black sword wave radiated out in a 180-degree fan shape. Its speed had already surpassed most people's senses. Facing this frightening sword, Yi Chen pulled out the thunder sword with his left hand. Without adjusting his grip, he directly slashed out. The sword light without thunder lit up the sky of the Thunder Capital once again, slashing out with an increasingly domineering manner. Wherever it went, the air was shattered by the power of nothingness, leaving a shocking black sword mark. Sky Thunder Cut. The Sky Thunder Cut performed with his current power was far more powerful than when he had fought against the Red Water Miner's spiritual master. It might have been a casual attack, or he might have been holding the sword in his left hand or holding the longsword in a reverse grip. After waving out this sword, Yi Chen seemed to have understood something. The Sky Thunder Cut could cut through anything, including the sword wave formed from sword chi. The sound of silk being cut was heard. Not only did the Black Sword artist's killing move have no effect, he even suffered a bit of a backlash. Of course, with his power, this bit of backlash was nothing to him. However, Yi Chen's power made him vigilant. This battle is going to be dangerous. I originally thought that the Black Sword artist, who had comprehended the Slaughter Sword intent, could slightly suppress Yi Chen. Even if he couldn't suppress him, he should at least be on par with him. But now, no matter how I look at it, it seems like the battle between Yi Chen and the Red Water Miner's spiritual master is the same. Could it be that even the Black Sword artist is not a match for Yi Chen? The battle is not over yet. It's too early to say that. Who knows, the Black Sword artist might have a counterattack. After dozens of attacks, the two had fought from the sky to the ground. Sword chi that was enough to tear apart mountains were attacking each other in the sky of Thunder City. Black Dragon Wave. The Black Sword artist's strongest sword attack was naturally a profound sense martial art. However, due to various reasons, he did not have a deep understanding of the Black Dragon Wave, which was around 30% completion, which was still not as powerful as the Red Water Miner's spiritual master Wang Qi. Therefore, this Black Dragon Wave was only as powerful as the last movement of his sword art. However, a profound sense martial art was still a profound sense martial art. Even if its power was not enough, its subtlety was still not something a normal sword art could compete with. The black sword was covered in a black mist. When the Black Sword artist stabbed out, the sword light was like a swimming dragon, without any fixed pattern or pattern. Even if it was someone with the same power as the Black Sword artist, It would be hard to avoid this sword attack. Their bodies would be pierced through and shattered. What a horrifying sword attack! I can't even see its trajectory. Dragons are legendary creatures. I heard that when a dragon flies in the sky, it would be impossible to see or touch it, as if it existed in another space. As a profound sense martial art, the Black Dragon Wave would naturally not be like a normal martial art, where the word dragon would be used to increase its aggressiveness. It must have been added after careful consideration. Even if this Black Dragon Wave is not related to the Black Dragon, it must be related to the Flood Dragon. Yi Chen is going to lose. Losing to this sword attack is not shameful at all. Everyone on the stage did not think that Yi Chen would win. Even if Yi Chen had had the upper hand since the beginning, and it had been going on until now, the battle between sword artists would be decided in just a second. So what if he had the upper hand? So what if the scene looked good? One sword attack would be able to wipe out all of his previous efforts. It was cruel, but also realistic. Right then, even Tua Baku, Li Daoxian, and the others were worried for Yi Chen. Mu Lingfeng was even more unable to control his emotions, his palm squeezing the armrest of his chair until it exploded. Facing this untraceable sword attack, a faint smile appeared on the corner of Yi Chen's mouth. He flipped the green wood sword and put it behind his back. His left hand instantly grabbed the thunder sword's hilt at his waist, pulled it out and sliced upwards. The sword light twisted back, wrapping around his opponent's strange sword light. Reverse sky thunder cut. It was the same sword attack from before. In just a short period of time, Yi Chen had already perfected it to a certain extent. What? The black sword artist's expression had just appeared on his face when he felt a sharp pain in his chest. The blood that had splashed out dyed his eyes red, making him feel hot and numb. Time seemed to have stopped. Without knowing why, the black sword artist recalled what Yi Chen had said before the battle. This blood might not be mine, but yours. Chapter 457. The black sword light rolled back without any warning, and the black sword artist was sent flying by his own sword. Just like the essence of this profound martial skill, Black Dragon Wave, its trajectory was mysterious. If the opponent couldn't block it, then neither could the user. It was ironic. Spraying blood everywhere, the black sword artist crashed into the Zhen Yuan barrier of the crowd in the pavilion. With his back as the center, a circular shockwave exploded. Many of the spectators stood up, and those who didn't were slightly trembling. Regardless of whether they stood up or not, they were all indescribably shocked. Unbelievable, unbelievable! He actually broke the black sword artist's profound martial skill and counterattack. What kind of determination and sword technique is needed to achieve this? He previously said that this blood might not be mine and might be yours. I thought he was just saying it casually, but I can't believe he actually did it. I can't deny that his sword Dao cultivation base is already above the black sword artist. If it could be said that the horrified expressions of the others were more or less filled with confusion and incomprehension, then the horrified expression of the deadly swordsman Ling Zhuo was completely filled with understanding and understanding. His title as the deadly swordsman was as his name implied. His sword art was extremely ruthless and ruthless. He walked a tricky path, making it impossible for one to see the trajectory of his sword or see the trajectory of his sword. By the time one saw his sword, it would already be too late. Although he didn't comprehend an elemental sword intent and couldn't compete with the black sword artist in terms of pure offensive power, his techniques could make up for this disadvantage. He had mastered a total of 3 top-rank Earth Realm sword arts, all of which he had cultivated to the extreme. Apart from that, he had also comprehended a low-rank profound sword skill to 40% completion. These 3 sword arts and 1 sword skill were all focused on killing in one strike. Even if he were to face the black sword artist, he wouldn't be afraid. In his opinion, the odds of victory were only 50-50. Either he would be defeated by the black sword artist, or he would be able to injure the opponent in a short time and win. There was no third possibility. Originally, after the fight between Yi Chun and the Black Sword Artist, regardless of the outcome, Leng Zhuo would challenge one of them. But now, he no longer had the heart to challenge Yi Chun. This person's sword art was the type that Leng Zhuo was most afraid of encountering. It was perfect and flawless. Of course, a flawless sword artist didn't mean that he could defeat a flawed sword artist. However, there was no doubt that Leng Zhuo was most afraid of a flawless sword artist. In his opinion, Yi Chun was a flawless sword artist. Yi Chun had used the same amount of power to suppress the berserk black sword artist from start to finish. This was something that Leng Zhuo couldn't do. If he were to face Yi Chun, Leng Zhuo would probably be weaker than Black Sword Artist. Especially after Yi Chun executed the reverse sky lightning cut, Leng Zhuo knew that he didn't have the slightest chance. Not to mention killing Yi Chun with a single strike, he would probably be killed by Yi Chun with a single strike. Leng Zhuo relaxed his clenched fist. He had already given up on challenging Yi Chun. Puff. Kneeling on one knee, the Black Sword Artist vomited a mouthful of blood, his complexion extremely pale. You actually counterattacked my Black Dragon Wave? His shock wasn't without reason. Yi Chun could shatter the Black Dragon Wave, but he couldn't accept the fact that he was injured by the Black Dragon Wave. Yi Chun glanced at the thunder sword in his left hand and said, "For a moment of inspiration, I have to thank you." The reverse sky lightning cut was just something he had casually executed. After all, he was proficient in two great mentalities, one being the thunder mentality and the other the wood mentality. Sword arts that were propelled by these two mentalities needed a corresponding treasure sword to complement them. No matter how fast Yi Chun's sword swapping speed was, there would always be a waste. Therefore, with a flash of inspiration, he used his left hand to reverse grip the thunder sword and executed the sky lightning cut. Thunder struck down from the sky, and it was called Sky Thunder. As it struck down, it was like a peerless treasure sword, sharp and unstoppable. The reverse sky lightning cut moved in the opposite direction, striking from below like the reversal of the universe. The sky was no longer the sky, and the earth was no longer the earth. Not only could it cut off the opponent's attack, it could even counterattack the opponent's attack, returning it to its normal state. It sounded easy, but it wasn't necessarily easy to do. The first time Yi Chun performed the reverse sky lightning cut, it wasn't the real one, because it didn't have any other function other than cutting off a bit more power. However, the second time he performed it, Yi Chun purposely made it work. It was all thanks to Yi Chun's powerful soul. Relying on his terrifying soul source, he was able to reverse the sky lightning cut in a short time, using the most powerful point of the attack at the moment of the sword attack and the weakest point at the moment of the attack. It was the exact opposite of the normal sky lightning cut. Therefore, no matter if it was the reverse sky lightning cut or the sky lightning cut, they were essentially the same. Otherwise, Yi Chun wouldn't have been able to recreate a sword movement that was more powerful than the sky lightning cut. The reverse sky lightning cut was not only a counterattack movement, but also an offensive one. However, the counterattack was a bit more strange, and impossible to defend against. In other words, with the reverse sky lightning cut, Yi Chun's awkwardness had been alleviated to a certain degree. Regardless of whether he wanted to admit it or not, the lack of sword movements was his biggest problem. Other people had the support of powerful martial institutions, so after learning a top-rank Earth Realm sword art, they could still learn a second one. If they got bored of top-rank Earth Realm sword arts, they could change their tastes and challenge more difficult profound sword art. Up until now, he had only inherited one Green Lotus sword art, which was honestly very powerful. It was way more powerful than normal top-rank Earth Realm sword art. It was almost the peak of top-rank Earth Realm sword arts, and there was no other top-rank Earth Realm sword art that could be more powerful than it. Because of this, the ninth movement was extremely hard to comprehend. Yi Chun suspected that with this amount of time, He could even comprehend a profound sword movement that required the thunder profound to 30%. Although once he comprehended the 9th movement of the Green Lotus sword art, its power would be unparalleled, and it might even surpass Yi Chen's imagination. However, if he did not comprehend the 9th movement, he would not be able to use it as his ace attack, and he would not be able to change the situation. Besides the Green Lotus sword art, the Sky Lightning Cut had been created by Yi Chen step by step. He had been using it from the beginning until now, and it had been extremely smooth. Besides these two, Yi Chen did not have any other ace sword art that he could use anymore. Right now, the Reverse Sky Lightning Cut had undoubtedly solved Yi Chen's urgent problem. In a situation where the power was equal, the importance of martial arts was way too big, and it was related to life and death. Hearing Yi Chen say that he would have to thank him for the sudden inspiration, Black Sword Artist almost puked out another mouthful of blood. Although he did not puke out any blood, his face was still extremely pale. His opponent still had the time to create an unimaginable sword movement in the middle of a fierce battle, which was no different from slapping his face. Sudden inspiration. Anyone could have a sudden inspiration, but it did not mean that it could be put into action. After all, this was not a battle between mortal realm martial artists, where a sudden inspiration could turn the tables. It should be known that they were absolute astral-reaching experts, and that sudden inspiration, which could be put into action without any time, was completely useless. On the other hand, Yi Chen's sudden inspiration had almost beaten him half to death. The difference between the two was too big. Therefore, Black Sword Artist did not believe that this was a sword move created by Yi Chen's sudden inspiration. It was certainly his hidden ace. Thinking of this, Black Sword Artist felt much better. Being defeated by a hidden ace was something he could reluctantly accept, although his face was a bit unsightly. After the tea gathering, I will fight you again. Black Sword Artist had made up his mind to comprehend Black Dragon Wave to 40% completion. If not for the fact that he had spent too much time comprehending the Slaughter Sword intent, he would not have lost to Yi Chen today. However, he did not expect that without the Slaughter Sword intent, how would he be able to fight against Yi Chen? The huge black sword landed on the ground as Black Sword Artist stood up and returned to his seat without saying a word. Thunder Princess watched Black Sword Artist leave and slowly let out a breath, then announced, "This battle, Yi Chen wins." Hearing these words, everyone in South Rudra region had different expressions. Mu Lingfeng was ecstatic. He did not expect that at the last moment, Yi Chen would defeat Black Sword Artist so cleanly. That sword move was simply too stunning. Sikong Xing sneered, not knowing what he was thinking. Beside him, 7th Knight and 6th Knight exchanged a bitter smile, believing that they were not Yi Chen's opponent. Everyone else's expression was normal. They had long since seen how deep Yi Chen was. Perhaps he still had more powerful killing moves. In Gold Sand Region's direction, the purple-haired bewitching woman beside Astral Spirit Sun turned her head and said, "Leng Zhuo, aren't you going to challenge him?" Dressed in gray clothes, the ordinary-looking Leng Zhuo was just like his name, cold and indifferent. It was as if nothing could attract his attention, yet he seemed to put everything in his eyes. His expression did not change, neither cold nor hot as he said, "I am not as good as him." Interesting. The purple-haired bewitching woman was slightly astonished. She was not a sword artist, so she did not know much about the deep-level battles between sword artists. However, she understood Leng Zhuo. This person's sword arts were unique, and he specialized in killing with one strike. Even if he were to face someone stronger than him, he would be fearless. There were examples to prove that in the past few years, he had killed countless sword artists stronger than him. He was called the Life Reaper Sword Artist by the people of Gold Sand region. The purple-haired bewitching woman originally thought that Leng Zhuo would challenge him. Who would have thought that he would directly say that he was not as good as Yi Chen? This did not sound like he was inferior in strength, but in the aspect he specialized in. In other words, Leng Zhuo believed that he had no chance at all. After defeating the black sword artist, Yi Chen felt that his Zhen Yuan had been consumed quite a bit. He cupped his fists and said, "I've already fought 4 battles in a row, and my Zhen Yuan consumption is not small. I'll go take a rest." After saying these words, he turned around and walked back to his seat. Looking at Yi Chen's back, a lot of people let out admiring gazes. 1 man and 1 sword, battling 4 people in a row, and defeating 4 of them in a row. Moreover, none of them were nameless warriors. Such an achievement would definitely cause a sensation. Because of him, the South Rudra region had jumped from the first level to the second level, and was unparalleled in the second level. Regardless of the outcome of the tea gathering, the title of the number 1 sword artist of South Rudra region had completely fallen into Yi Chen's hands. In a few days, it would spread throughout the entire South Rudra region, and his fame would resound throughout the whole region for the first time. Number 1 sword artist. South Rudra region. What kind of glory was this? Apart from the glory of being the number 1 sword artist, everyone believed that Yi Chen had the strength to enter the top 10. Top 3 wasn't too likely, but 4th, 5th, or even 6th was a possibility. He has truly become famous overnight. Everyone sighed inwardly. Yi Chen's departure from the stage made the following exchanges somewhat dull. However, everyone was looking forward to the fiery exchanges. After all, there were still many powerful figures who hadn't made their moves yet, especially the Thunder Princess, Edict Prince, and Astral Spirit Son. Chapter 458. In everyone's opinion, Leng Zhuo, who didn't dare to challenge Yi Chen, was just an undeserved reputation. He didn't deserve the title of Fatal Sword Caesar, nor did he deserve to be called one of the 3 great sword artists of the southern sector. However, they were wrong. His strength was definitely beyond their imagination. 4 consecutive opponents were all famous sword artists, but they all lost miserably at his hands. The first opponent was Li Daoxian. He could only receive 1 sword strike, but he couldn't raise the second one no matter what, because Leng Zhuo's sword was already on his neck. The second opponent was Feng Yanro, who could only receive 1 strike as well. It wasn't because her icy snow sword domain wasn't powerful enough, but because she didn't even have the time to use it. The opponent's sword was like a ghost, breaking through her defense before she could even react. It was terrifyingly fast and accurate. The third opponent was Fire Swamp Region's second-ranked Underworld Flame Sword artist. His strength was also above the previous 2, and he managed to receive 3 strikes from Leng Zhuo. The first strike ended in a draw, the second strike knocked away his longsword, the third strike broke his protective Zhen Yuan, and the fourth strike landed on his shoulder. The victory came so quickly that the spectators didn't even have the time to get excited. The fourth opponent was none other than Misty Snow Region's first-ranked Ling Hanya, also known as Drifting Snow Sword Artist. Despite his title, Ling Hanya's strength was only at the same level as Red Water Daoist Wang Qi, at most a bit higher. Therefore, he was still defeated, but at least he managed to exchange 7 strikes. At this point, the spectators finally understood that it wasn't that fatal sword artist Leng Zhuo wasn't strong, but that Yi Chen was too strong. Even if he went up, he wouldn't be Yi Chen's opponent. What a frightening fatal swift sword! Mu Lingfeng mumbled. Yi Chen said, "If the black sword artist's sword pursues destructive power, then Leng Zhuo's sword pursues one-hit kill. The 2 are different styles, but from a certain perspective, Leng Zhuo is more frightening." And Mu Lingfeng faintly nodded. He was not a stupid person. Leng Zhuo was like an assassin among sword artists, pursuing efficiency. Therefore, those with lower strength were even more unwilling to face him. In the following exchanges, Bing Ling, Mo Yen, Gu Yuyun, and Qian Yun all went up to challenge the young elites of other regions. Bing Ling's strength was only slightly inferior to Li Daoxian, Yan Qihua, and Bing Ling, which made many people exclaim at the freakishness of South Rudra region. With Yi Chun, Li Daoxian, and Yan Qihua, it was still not enough. Now, there was another Bing Ling. Perhaps the current lineup of South Rudra region couldn't compare to the top 3 regions, and in terms of average strength, it couldn't compare to the older regions like Misty Snow region, Cloud Billow region, and the other big regions. However, one had to understand the situation clearly. In the last tea gathering, South Rudra region was a joke. Among the hundreds of people present, only Sikong Sheng was from South Rudra region. Who would have thought that after 2 years, South Rudra region would undergo such a huge change, with powerful people emerging in large numbers? Bing Ling had shown her own brilliance, while Mo Yen had sunk into darkness. Of course, he would still be an amazing martial genius in South Rudra region. However, this was the southern regions, where there were no top geniuses, only more geniuses. The strength he had displayed was no different from normal geniuses. As for Gu Yuyun and Qian Yun, although they didn't display too much of their power, compared to their age and improvement in the past couple of years, they couldn't be ignored. What was certain was that in the future tea gathering, they would be the core power of South Rudra region. TSK. What a beautiful girl. Not only has South Rudra region completely changed, even the beauties here are extraordinary. Could it be that the heavens have started to love South Rudra region and have gathered all the natural essence there? Her name is Murong Qinqing, right? She is indeed like her name. As soon as Murong Qinqing went up, most of the young warriors were shocked. Some of the beauties who claimed to be beauties were also secretly jealous. Murong Qinqing's opponent was not a normal warrior, but the third-ranked young warrior of Snow Iron region. The result was shocking. Her opponent didn't even have the strength to fight back, and had no choice but to admit defeat. The second opponent was even more powerful. He was the 4th-ranked young warrior of Floating Light region. Floating Light region was the region where Edict Prince resided, and was publicly recognized as one of the 3 most powerful regions in the southern regions. If he were to enter Misty Snow region, he would probably be ranked 2nd. However, he still wasn't Murong Qinqing's opponent. How is this possible? What happened in South Rudra region? That cold beauty Bing Ling is already powerful enough, but this Murong Qinqing is even more powerful. Not to mention the average strength, South Rudra region is definitely the number 1 region below the 3 most powerful regions. It's too frightening. Unknowingly, South Rudra region had become the center of everyone's discussion, and it had never stopped. Interesting. My hands are itching. In the Thunder region formation, young cult leader Yin Zhongli, who was sitting beside Beast Prince Mo Xiang, stood up and walked up to the stage with a smile. What? Yin Zhongli is going to challenge Murong Qinqing? Yin Zhongli was very famous in the Thunder region. In the last tea gathering, he was ranked just below Mo Xiang, ranked 3rd in the Thunder region. However, Mo Xiang did not compete with him at that time. Seriously speaking, it was very likely that they were evenly matched. Even if Mo Xiang was stronger, he was only slightly stronger. Both of them had the strength of the top 10 of the southern sector. Yin Zhongli, one of the 10 fake dragons. On the other side, Edict Prince muttered. The beautiful girl named Yu Xian shook her head. He will lose. Edict Prince was slightly surprised. If it were someone else who said this, he would have thought it over. However, since it was Yu Xian who said it, he had to believe it even if he didn't want to, even though he knew that it wasn't good to blindly believe it. Yu Xian's strength was not as good as his, but only he knew that her eyesight was frightening. It was a kind of deep insight. As the young leader of the Shining School and the great-grandson of the Shining King, Yin Zhongli was undoubtedly powerful. However, he was famous for his speed, which was like a flickering ghost. Once he activated his speed, apart from the Thunder Princess and the other 2, everyone else would have a headache. Shoo! 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 A dark yellow light flashed everywhere, and the crowd could no longer see Yin Zhongli's body. Light cut. Suddenly appearing behind Murong Qinqing, Yin Zhongli waved his arm, and a thin light arc that was dozens of meters long shot out like a flash of light. Crack! The light arc did not hit Murong Qingqing, but only created a large cluster of sparks on the exposed thunder iron. However, it seemed to be protected by a layer of restrictive energy, and was not damaged in the slightest. Yin Zhongli's brows creased. In that split second, Murong Qingqing had taken a couple of steps to the side. It was as if she had teleported, which was even faster than teleportation. 1,000 twist 100 stabs. Pushing his speed to the limit, Yin Zhongli would launch an attack every time he turned around. All of a sudden, the whole place was filled with his attacks, which was extremely strange. Heaven's rebuke! A black light flashed through her eyes as Murong Qingqing found Yin Zhongli's rhythm. She threw out a palm attack in advance, which contained a repulsive force. Not good. Yin Zhongli's body paused, forcefully changing his movement trajectory. Puff! The repulsive force was shapeless and formless. Yin Zhongli was fine, but a young man from the snow iron region 1 li behind him was out of luck. He spurted out a mouthful of blood and flew out of the platform. He can actually see through my movement? Yin Zhongli was bewildered. Not only was Yin Zhongli bewildered, even the Thunder Princess and the other two were bewildered. They could only vaguely distinguish Yin Zhongli's movement trajectory from outside the arena. If they were on the scene, they would definitely not be able to attack in advance. No wonder you said that Yin Zhongli would lose. Edict Prince believed that in terms of seeing through movement trajectories, he was not as good as Murong Qingqing, and his opponent was probably at the same level as Yu Xian. In terms of perception, the two of them were absolutely peerless. It's the same in the underground world. It was not the first time that Yi Chen had seen her perception power. That kind of perception power was not very likely to be mental power. Instead, it was a deeper and more mysterious power, a power that no one else could cultivate. Having his movement trajectory seen through continuously, Yin Zhongli finally lost his patience. The reason why he could be ranked 3rd in the Thunder region and think that he would not lose to Mo Xiang was because of his movement skill. But now, his movement skill was useless, and his power was greatly reduced. So what if I've been seen through? Take this move of mine. Yin Zhongli performed a profound martial skill and attacked Murong Qingqing with all his strength. Flying Assassination Cut. As a genius disciple of the Sky Flying Demon Martial School, it was impossible for Murong Qingqing to not have trained a profound sense martial art. This profound sense martial art of hers was indeed the Flying Sky Assassination Cut, a horrifying killing attack that specialized in assassination. Combined with Murong Qingqing's powerful observation, she would be able to pinpoint her opponent's weak spot within a second, jump into the air, and kill with one attack. Puff! Yin Zhongli's weak point was hit, and he was sent flying backward while vomiting blood. Unbelievably powerful. Even Yin Zhongli is not her opponent. Could it be that her power is not weaker than Yi Chen's? A small region that has been weak for a long time suddenly has 2 warriors in the top 10. This is crazy. Even the top 3 regions would not be this powerful. The Thunder Princess was a bit surprised at this result. But she was indeed a true dragon-level genius of the southern region. She calmly announced, "Murong Qingqing wins." Murong Qingqing nodded slightly and turned around to leave the stage. She did not seem to want to continue the battle. Yi Chen, Murong Qingqing is also powerful. Mu Lingfeng turned his head to look at Yi Chen. After witnessing the battle between Murong Qingqing and Yin Zhongli, he really did not know who was stronger, although Yi Chen had shown more power. Yi Chen faintly smiled. You only need to know that she is not simple. She always has been. Tua Baku said meaningfully, Yi Chen, you have to be careful of your position. Not only Murong Qingqing, but Xikong Sheng, I also want to beat you. Yi Chen said casually, if you can, then go and fight. I will be waiting for you here. Haha, if I don't show my power, you won't take me seriously. It's my turn. Tuabaku could feel Yi Chen's domineering aura, so he laughed and walked onto the stage with big step. His tall and majestic body looked like it was made of steel. Bang! Unstoppable, steady like a mountain. This was the image that Tuabaku gave to everyone. His opponents were defeated one after another under his destructive attack. I am already numb. Is this really the South Rudra region? His strength is not any weaker than Yi Chen's. 3 people from one region can compete for the top 10 of the southern region. What a frightening lineup. Sizing up Tuabaku on the stage, Edict Prince thought to himself, he should be one of the 10 fake dragons. Adding that Yi Chen and Murong Qinqing, the South Rudra region would have 3 fake dragons. They are not to be underestimated. Although he could see how many real Dragon Chi and fake Dragon Chi were in the sky above the Thunder City, he would still have to distinguish them face to face. For example, before Tuabaku went on the stage, he would never associate him with the fake Dragon Chi. Seeing Tuabaku, who was once weaker than him, Yan Qihua felt suffocated for a moment. He murmured, so, he has already caught up to Yi Chen. Yi Chen was the target of everyone in the South Rudra region. But now, Tuabaku and Murong Qinqing had both displayed strength that was not any weaker than Yi Chen's, which made him feel an incomparably heavy pressure. Chapter 459. Thunder Region Mo Xiang, please teach me. Tuabaku's power had ignited Mo Xiang's battle intent. In his opinion, the South Rudra region had been in the limelight enough already, and it was time to beat them down a bit. Especially after Murong Qinqing had shown such a horrifying power. If he did not show it now, even he himself would feel embarrassed. After all, he had told her that if she ran into any trouble in the Thunder City, she should just tell him his name. Right now, it sounded so annoying. His body left a long shadow in the air as Mo Xiang landed lightly in front of Tuabaku. He had not even attacked yet, but a wave of powerful qi had already exploded. The main character is here. Tuabaku put away his relaxed expression. The Beast Prince Mo Xiang was not just anyone. He was ranked 2nd in the Thunder region and top 5 in the South region, a true dragon-level martial genius. Just the name of the Beast Prince was enough to oppress people to death. Not to mention the fact that he had not shown his power yet, so no one knew exactly how powerful he was. The two stood 100 meters away from each other, looking at each other quietly. Who? A gust of wind blew toward Tuabaku from the south to the north, and Mo Xiang's back was facing the wind. The second the wind started to blow, Mo Xiang moved. No one could describe how agile Mo Xiang's movement was. This kind of agility was not something a human should have, but a flying beast. He opened both of his arms, and before he could even think of anything, he had already arrived in front of Tuabaku, throwing out his most powerful attack. His body slightly tilted in the air as his right knee kicked out. Mo Xiang's attack was both simple and aggressive. Wild goose attack. Tuabaku's pupils shrank suddenly. Right then, Mo Xiang was no different from a beast in his eyes, and it was a beast that was full of intelligence. This simple knee attack brought up a blue meteor-like tail flame. In that split second, he could only cross his arms and take it head-on. Dong! One attacked with all of his power, while the other was defending passively. It was destined that Mo Xiang would have the upper hand. Tuabaku's feet rubbed the surface of the platform as he backed out. That powerful pressure formed behind him. So powerful! Tuabaku had to admit that he had underestimated Mo Xiang. Being able to be ranked in the top 5 of the southern regions, it was definitely not just for show. After gaining the upper hand in one move, Mo Xiang's offensive didn't stop. Borrowing the force of the collision, he soared into the sky and chopped down with a high kick. This high kick was like 100 zhang-long python pouncing at full strength towards his opponent. The terrifying leg pressure caused the air to surge like waves, rolling to both sides. Python pounce. Tuabaku was not a normal warrior after all. Even if he had lost the upper hand, he did not lose his calmness. Facing that powerful kick, he lowered his body into a horse stance and threw out a series of punches while backing out. Savage 18 punches. Boom. With Tua Baku as the center, countless fist shadows blossomed, looking like the blooming of a daffodil. Get down! Emotion groaned with a low voice. His body twisted, and 7 human-shaped shadows shot out. These 7 human-shaped shadows combined with his real body, attacking Tua Baku with even more aggressive leg attacks. Each attack brought with it a horrifying poetic perspective. Hundreds and thousands of attacks were thrown down, like an army attacking a battlefield. Crack! Bending his knees, Tua Baku became a little shorter. The sound of his bones being squeezed kept on being heard. He suspected that if this continued, he would be squashed. A wild light shot out of his eyes as Tua Baku roared. His spine and knees straightened up. The second he straightened up, it was as if there were countless air bombs exploding around him. The chi flow was messy, forming into a dragon shape that lingered in the air for a long time. Dragon World. Who? Tua Baku threw out an extremely horrifying dragon-shaped chi into the sky. The dragon-shaped chi roared into the sky, its massive head seeming to be able to swallow Emotion and the space around him. The thin air had been stirred up until it looked like liquid. Bring out all of your power. Otherwise, you will lose very soon. Emotion's arms suddenly exploded with a blue chi flow. It was like fire, burning fiercely. He crossed his arms and lifted them up high before attacking down. Tiger Soul Cross Attack. Boom. That crossed light was like a sky blade. With one attack, the dragon-shaped chi was shattered into pieces. Tua Baku puked out a mouthful of blood and was blown backward. So powerful! Is this the power of the Beast Prince Emotion? He is indeed one of the top 5 martial geniuses of the southern region. Even Tua Baku, who was at the same level as Yi Chun, was not his opponent. It seems like in this tea gathering, Emotion's status will still be the same. Everyone was shocked by Emotion's battling power, especially the people from the Thunder region. They were all excited, and their faces were full of pride. Emotion being powerful meant that their Thunder region would be powerful as well, even though they still had the Thunder Princess, who was even more powerful. This guy is so powerful. Wiping off the blood on the corner of his mouth, Tua Baku lifted up his head. His wild eyes released an even more intense battling intent, as if he had just woken up. Interesting. Emotion could sense the change in Tua Baku, and his nerves tightened. Shoo! Tua Baku bent his knees and shot into the air. His left and right hands each threw out a dragon-shaped chi attack at Emotion. I told you, this is useless against me. Tiger Soul Cross Attack. The crossed light flashed once, and the 2 dragon-shaped chi attacks shattered instantly. However, in the next second, a shocking scene happened. A colorful giant lizard shadow appeared behind Tua Baku. Its body looked like a lizard, but its head was a real dragon head. With the help of the giant lizard shadow, Tua Baku looked like a god as he threw out a palm attack. Awoof! A loud dragon roar was heard as the giant lizard shadow extended its neck and bit Emotion, smashing him onto the ground. Blood spilled out of Emotion's mouth. He had been wounded. What? No one had expected this kind of change to happen to Tua Baku's body. They all opened their mouths wide, not knowing what to say. Right next to Mu Lingfeng, a strange look flashed through Yi Chen's eyes. Giant lizard shadow, 3-headed snake shadow. Perhaps there is some kind of connection between them? When people from the Wang family of the Snake Island battled with all of their power, a 3-headed snake shadow would appear behind their backs. The more powerful they were, the more snake heads they would have. Wang's snake had a 5-headed snake tattoo on his body, which meant that his bloodline was extremely rich, and his potential was extremely powerful as well. What I am sure of is that Tua Baku does not have a king bloodline, but his bloodline seems to be even more powerful than that. The king bloodline would show one's potential, but it would not affect one's current power. However, Tua Baku's bloodline could increase his power drastically, which was something that the king bloodline could not compete with. This is your real power. Puking out a mouthful of blood, the chi flow outside of Mo Xiang's body started to move rapidly. Because of the speed, his whole body looked like it was being cooked. Endless blue chi flow spread out from inside to outside, burning fiercely and twisting, which made Mo Xiang's aura increase drastically. A bloody battle. It was about to start. Enough, this battle is considered a draw. The Thunder Princess could tell that the two were fighting with all their might. If they continued to fight, one of them would die for sure. Plus, this was just a friendly battle, not a life-and-death battle. Dispersing the giant lizard shadow behind him, Tua Baku chuckled, "Consider yourself lucky. Otherwise, even I would not be able to control the situation from now on." Mo Xiang sneered, "You are lucky as well. Besides the battle with the Edict Prince in the last tea gathering, I have never shown my full power." Same here. The two's battle intent was endless, and they wished they could fight again. Seeing the two clashing with each other, the spectators did not find it funny at all. Since the beginning of the tea gathering, this would be the most powerful battle. Whether it was Yi Chen against the Black Sword Artist or Murong Qingqing against Yin Zhongli, none of them could compare to this battle. In their minds, Tua Baku and Mo Xiang were already the most powerful warriors below the top 3 dragon-level martial geniuses. Without any surprises, they would definitely be in the top 6. As for Yi Chen, although his sword arts were powerful, and that reverse sky thunder cut had shocked a lot of people, it did not mean that he was powerful. The two were completely different concepts. I really did not expect that the most powerful warrior in the South Rudra region would not be Yi Chen, but this Tua Baku. Ling Hanya shook his head and forced a smile. He was thinking about what his rank would be in the South Rudra region. There were Tua Baku, Yi Chen, and Murong Qingqing in front of him, and he would only be ranked 4th at most. If that Xikong Sheng was also extremely powerful, he would only be ranked 5th. In the Misty Snow region, he would be ranked 1st, but in a small region like the South Rudra region, he would only be ranked 4th or 5th. The reality was indeed a joke. Qingzhu also sighed. I thought Yi Chen was the most powerful one in the South Rudra region. Feng Yenro did not say anything. Her intuition told her that Yi Chen was not that simple. But the truth was right in front of her eyes, and she could not refute it. Plus, this Tua Baku was indeed powerful, ridiculously powerful. The second that giant lizard shadow appeared, it seemed like it had brought her to a wild world. How is it? Not bad, right? Returning to his seat, Tua Baku picked up his teacup and drank all of the tea inside as he chuckled to Yi Chen. Yi Chen nodded. Why do I feel like our South Rudra region is a place full of hidden dragons and crouching tigers? Before, there was Murong Qingqing, and now there is you. There was one more person that he did not mention, which was Su Jing. Tua Baku knew what he was talking about, so he said mysteriously, I cannot tell anyone about this. Yi Chen smiled, but did not say anything else. In the third pavilion nearby, the 7th knight said to Xikong Sheng, plans cannot keep up with changes. 4th knight, it seems like your biggest opponent is not Yi Chen, but Tua Baku. Xikong Sheng looked at Tua Baku with a serious expression and said lightly, take it slow. Tua Baku's sudden appearance was something that he had not expected. Facing Tua Baku face to face, he did not have the confidence to win at all. As for who was more powerful and who was weaker, he would have to fight to find out. Bystanders would not be able to understand the real details of the battle after all. Otherwise, the battle would be meaningless. A bit of light appeared in the sky. Unknowingly, a night had passed. The tea gathering was said to be going for 3 days, but it was actually going for 3 days and 3 nights. For astral-reaching realm warriors, 3 days and 3 nights without sleep would not affect them at all. Once they reached the Sea of Souls realm, 1 month without sleep would not affect their mental state and battling power at all. It would only make them more excited. After the battle between Tuabaku and Emosiang, the heated atmosphere had calmed down. Everyone also needed time to digest the experience that they had gained from watching the previous battles. While drinking tea, they talked to each other in a low voice, looking like a real tea gathering. Chapter 460. Yeah, this guy's wood mentality is not bad. It has a thorny feeling to it. Whip? That's right. The wood mentality can represent many things, such as big trees and thorns. It can also represent vines. Vines are very soft, and with a whip, it would have a huge destructive power. The thickness of wood is not the same as the thickness of soil. It is more holistic. There were around 400 people participating in the tea gathering, and more than 40 of them had mastered the wood mentality. Although all of them had mastered the wood mentality and had already reached the limit, the wood mentality of each one of them was different and not the same. While they were sparring, Yi Chen would carefully observe the wood mentality contained in their martial arts, gradually perfecting his own, preparing for the 9th movement of the Green Lotus sword arts. No matter how powerful Yi Chen's sword intent was, the lack of killing moves would always be a problem. Therefore, he had to learn the 9th movement of the Green Lotus sword art. With this move, he would have 3 killing moves, which would be more or less enough for him at the moment. As he observed more and more, he learned more and more. Yi Chen suddenly reached out his right hand, using his fingers as a sword to practice. Shoo! 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 Without using Zhen Yuan or sword intent, Yi Chen was just practicing calmly, as if he was drawing a pattern in the air. However, after dozens of fingers, a change occurred. Wherever Yi Chen's fingers passed, the air seemed to be sliced by an extremely sharp sword, making a swishing sound. Later on, an extremely faint finger light appeared on his fingertip. This finger light had nothing to do with anything else. It seemed to be the sharpness of Yi Chen's body. The sharpness of his fingers was condensed from the sharpness qi. What is going on? Tuabaku and Mu Lingfeng looked at Yi Chen with shock. They were sure that Yi Chen did not use his Zhen Yuan or sword intent, but where did that finger light come from? It was so sharp, indescribably sharp, as if its very nature was sharp. His palm lightly patted the table, and the small teacup jumped up. Tuabaku flicked the cup with his finger, and it shot out without a sound, passing by Yi Chen. Coincidentally, Yi Chen's finger tapped on the teacup. Time seemed to freeze for a moment. An extremely thin and sharp gust of wind shot out from the back of the teacup, leaving a small hole in the pavilion pillar. On the other hand, the teacup was not damaged at all, and the tea inside did not spill out. Grabbing the teacup with his left hand, Yi Chen took a sniff. It smelled nice, so he handed it over to Tuabaku. Tuabaku caught the teacup and hurried to check it, then again. Eventually, he lifted up his head and said with confusion, "No holes?" Yi Chen smiled and said, "Of course there are no holes." The holes on the pillars of the pavilion? That hole was caused by my inability to control my sword intent. Strange. Tuabaku still could not figure it out. If it was made by the sword intent, then it would not be possible for it to reach the pillar through the teacup. But if it was not made by the sword intent, then the hole on the pillar would not have formed in the first place. Both of them were impossible, so which one was more possible? The edge of the sword. Turns out that I am still missing the gold mentality. By observing other people's wood mentality, Yi Chen's understanding of the wood mentality was quite deep. He had already seen the beginning of the 9th movement of the Green Lotus sword art. Therefore, he became interested and started to practice it with his fingers instead of his sword. As he trained, he forgot about the wood mentality and the 9th movement of the Green Lotus sword art. He sank into that kind of understanding of the sword. Since he had always been using the sword to fight against his enemies, and the sword was made of metal, it was naturally sharp. Therefore, his sword arts had always been sharp as well. But without the sword, he realized that he still lacked the sharpness, the edge of the sword. Until then, he finally understood how sad it would be for a sword artist to not learn the gold mentality, since no matter how good the other mentalities were, they would not be as sharp as the gold mentality. The gold mentality was like the bridge between the sword artist and the sword. With this bridge, the sword artist would be able to push their edge to the extreme and show the power of a sword artist. On the other hand, without this bridge, the sword artist would always be separated from the sword, and would not be able to burst out the extreme attacking power. Although I have only understood it now, it is not too late. Yi Chen let out a breath as his eyes landed on the small hole in the middle of the pillar. The hole was indeed created by the sword intent, but it was attached to the sharp qi. The sharp qi was formless and intangible, and the sword intent itself was also formless and intangible. Once it reached a certain level, it would be able to affect reality, which was why it had become formless and tangible. The two did not combine before going through the teacup, which was why the teacup did not shatter. After going through the teacup, the sharp qi and the sword intent combined and immediately left a small hole on the pillar. This finger attack contained all of Yi Chen's sharpness, but it was still far from enough. The 9th movement of the Green Lotus sword art is already showing signs. Next, I need to learn the gold mentality. I almost know where I should go in the future. The famous sword artists all had their own paths, which were their own sword arts. For a long time, Yi Chen's sword arts had not been very clear, and he only knew how to walk on it. But now, he had found his own sword art. It might be full of thorns, but once it was completed, he would be the number one on it. He would be able to compete with the ancient sword kings, and it would also allow him to step on the higher path of the Sword Emperor. Sword Emperor. What was the Sword Emperor? The king of the sword, the number one in all of history. No matter how powerful the ancient sword king was, he was only a sword king, not a sword emperor. The reason why he could not be called emperor was because he could not compete with the other emperors of the same generation, and was forced to call himself a king. Although there was no limit to one emperor, it was still extremely hard to become the sword emperor. Yi Chen had already prepared for anything. Clenching his fists slightly, Yi Chen could feel his blood boiling. Boom! The qi waves on the stage shot up into the sky, shaking the entire pavilion slightly. Yi Chen looked over and realized that it was Sikong Xing who had entered the arena. His opponent was very powerful. He was the number one young warrior in the Fire Swamp region, and his power was not weaker than the number 3 warrior in the Thunder region, Yin Zhongli. The two exchanged dozens of attacks. The sky-high qi waves had nowhere to go, and they kept shooting up into the sky. Lose! His opponent performed a profound sense martial art, attacking towards Sikong Xing heavily. Sikong Xing was not scared at all, and he also used his profound sense martial art to fight back. Boom! A mottled light ball exploded, and Sikong Xing backed out quickly without being wounded at all. However, his opponent did not know what had happened to him, but his body was frozen right there as he took the attack head-on, puking out a mouthful of blood. Sikong Xing's profound sense martial art is a bit strange. Yi Chen had seen through it immediately. It was not that the number one young warrior in the Fire Swamp region did not want to back out, but he could not. That fist attack from Sikong Xing seemed to have some kind of connection with the ground, using the endless gravity to freeze his opponent, forcing him to not be able to lift his feet for a second, forcing him to take the attack head-on. Chapter 461. As for Sikong Xing's power, no one had the energy to be amazed anymore. They all knew that in this tea gathering, there were 4 powerful warriors from the South Rudra region: Tuabaku Yi Chen, Murong Qinqing, and Sikong Xing. All of them had the power to make it into the top 10. The other regions, including the top 3 regions, were all weaker than the South Rudra region in terms of top warriors. For example, the Thunder region would only have the Thunder Princess, Mo Xiang, and Yin Zhongli. The top warriors from the floating light region had not all shown up yet, but there would not be more than 3 of them. It was the same for the gold sand region. Besides the top 3 regions, there were also the black sword artist from the black gold region and the number 1 young warrior from the fire swamp region, CMO, who had just been beaten by Sikong Sheng. Lu Hun from the floating light region. After Sikong Sheng had beaten CMO, another powerful warrior stood up. He was the number 2 warrior from the floating light region, Lu Hun. Just like Mo Xiang, he was also one of the top 5 martial geniuses from the southern regions, with a dragon-level battling power. I hope he does not end up in a draw. Mo Xiang did not think that Lu Hun would lose, but he was afraid that Lu Hun and Sikong Sheng would end up in a draw. After all, the tea gathering was supposed to be a draw. On the 2-mile-wide stage, Sikong Sheng and Lu Hun stood 100 meters away from each other. The two attacked almost at the same time. Sikong Sheng's body shook once as he performed his space move step, appearing right next to Lu Hun within a second and throwing out a punch. Fist Tyrant River. Boom. The fist that carried a horrifying power was stopped by a palm, and the owner of the palm was naturally Lu Hun. His body was not huge, and his aura was not aggressive either. However, his body was filled with a mountain-like aura. Under that heavy aura, his every movement was extremely firm. Even when he was blocking Sikong Sheng's palm attack, he still looked extremely calm and relaxed. The fist power and the palm power clashed with each other, and the blast wave that exploded was like a huge pot that had been flipped upside down, blowing the two away. Fist-shattering river. Sikong Sheng wanted to win too much. Even when he was flying backward, he did not forget to attack. He pulled his right fist back to his waist and threw it out. The fist power pierced through the air, leaving a black mark in the air. The black mark extended toward Lu Hun's chest. True martial kill. Facing this powerful fist attack, Lu Hun straightened his right hand and turned his palm into a blade. He threw out a blade attack, cutting off the black mark's path and shattering Sikong Sheng's attack. Whoosh, whoosh. As soon as the two of them landed on the ground, they pounced at each other again. The switch between stillness and movement was so quick. Fist conquering the country. Fist breaking the mountains and seas. Fist breaking the sky. True martial divine palm. True martial interception. Dark counterattack. Both of them used their ultimate skills and were locked in battle. The entire arena was filled with the shadows of their fists and palm prints. Starry Sky Punch. Finally, Sikong Sheng performed the last movement of his mysterious Sky Tyrant Fist art. Its power was equivalent to 20 to 30% of a profound sense martial art. In the air above the mountain and mountain platform, countless stars flickered in a picturesque manner. That was the phenomenon created by the fist energy. Anyone who came into contact with any of the stars would suffer a crazy attack. Those who faced this attack would feel as if they were in the starry sky, unable to retaliate. Powerful, but it does not work on me. A serious look flashed through Lu Hun's eyes. He stomped on the ground and turned his body into the air. Countless dark blue palm prints shot out toward Sikong Sheng's fist power. Each of them would cancel out one of the stars, taking up half of the space. As his Zhen Yuan was pushed to its limit, the dark blue light around his body intensified, continuously forming into dragon, phoenix, tiger, and turtle shapes, looking like a celestial being. Naturally, Sikong Sheng did not think that he could beat Lu Hun easily. After all, the latter was at the same level as Mo Xianghe. Even if he was weaker, it would not be that much weaker. All of Sikong Sheng's clothes fluttered in the air without any wind. He took a step forward with his right foot and threw out a fist attack. Wait, this fist attack did not hit the ground. It was stopped when it was 3 feet away from the ground. However, a wave of ocean-like chi power had spread out along the ground. At first, it was messy, but halfway through, it had shrunk to half its size. By the time it reached the ground below Lu Hun, it had already condensed into a beam and exploded, spreading out in a fan shape. Pap, pap, pap. Before the chi power arrived, the spiral chi field outside of Lu Hun's body had already sensed it, making a weak exploding sound. However, Lu Hun did not care about it at all. The dark blue turtle formed by his Zhen Yuan suddenly sank down and was stepped on by his feet before falling down. Boom! The exploding sound of chi power continued to be heard. Sikong Sheng's attack had been shattered completely before it could even land. That dark blue turtle had an unimaginable suppressive power. Dragon, phoenix, tiger, turtle. The martial art on the turtle is the earth mentality. Perhaps you have mastered all four of them? Sikong Sheng sneered as he jumped out, throwing out the profound sense martial art that he had used to beat CMO, the top young warrior in the fire swamp region, the earth core sinking. Yah! Such a horrifying gravity! Stepping on the dark blue turtle made of Zhen Yuan, Lu Hun felt that he could not move even an inch, as if he was being pulled by the gravity deep underground. Right in front of him, Sikong Sheng's fist enlarged in front of his eyes, that horrifying fist power attacking at a high speed in a spiral shape. If you can't dodge it, then you will have to face it head-on. You might not be able to dodge it. White Tiger Kill. Sinking his chi into his dantian, Lu Hun's eyes shot out a godly light. He reached out his left hand and placed his right fist on his waist, throwing out a punch with a white gold light, clashing with Sikong Sheng's fist power. Boom! A mottled light ball was formed between the two's fists. In the next second, the light ball exploded. Pooh! Pooh! It was not only Lu Hun who puked out blood, but Sikong Sheng was also puking out blood. How is this possible? Sikong Sheng realized that he was the same as his opponent, unable to move even an inch. He had been forced to take on the backfire of the blast wave, which had wounded his internal organs. Lu Hun wiped the blood off his mouth. My black tortoise suppression had suppressed everything within dozens of meters, including you. Although the backfire of the blast wave was very powerful, it had already been weakened by 30%. In other words, I had only taken on 70% of the backfire. What about you? Sikong Sheng had a bad look on his face. He could tell that Lu Hun's wound was lighter than his. If they continued to fight, he would definitely not be his opponent. In the distance, Mo Xiang, who was watching the battle, laughed. Although Lu Hun and I have the same power, he is much more durable than me. Fighting with him head-on, the one who would suffer is 80%. As a true dragon-level warrior, the Thunder Princess had naturally seen all the details of the last battle. She said lightly, "This battle, Lu Hun wins." To be able to push Lu Hun to this level, below the top 3 true dragon-level warriors, only the Beast Prince, Mo Xiang, had managed to do this. Although he lost, it was still an honor. This Sikong Sheng is indeed powerful. Everyone was well aware of this result. Although it seemed like Sikong Sheng had lost to Lu Hun, he was actually being suppressed. If it were another warrior who was at the same level as Lu Hun, he might not lose. The sun had risen to the middle of the sky, and it was already afternoon. By now, everyone had a rough ranking in their hearts. If there were no accidents, this ranking would be the truth. In most people's minds, the top 3 would be the top 3 true dragon-level warriors, which were the Thunder Princess, the Edict Prince, and the Astral Spirit Son. The top 7 would be Mo Xiang, Tua Baku, Lu Hun, and Sikong Sheng. The top 15 would be Yi Chen, Murong Qinqing, the Black Sword Artist, the Deadly Sword Artist, Leng Zhua, Yin Zhongli, CMO. Those young warriors who were ranked at the back basically had no hope of fighting for a higher rank, since no matter how hard they tried, they would still be at the back. They could just find some warriors with similar power to fight, since there were so many of them, and the further they were at the back, the harder it would be to determine their rank. In the afternoon, another top battling power had appeared in the Gold Sand region, and it was the beautiful lady with purple hair who was standing right next to the Astral Spirit Son. She had rarely been out in the martial world before, and no one knew about her. Even the young warriors of the Gold Sand region barely knew about her, so they did not know her power. But, once she attacked, the power she had displayed was enough to shock people. She was actually a dragon-level warrior who was not weaker than Mo Xiang. Murong Qingqing, let's have some fun. The beautiful lady with purple hair called herself Luo Shan. She seemed to be very interested in Murong Qingqing. After beating a couple of powerful warriors, she called out her name. All right. Murong Qingqing nodded and flew into the air. Boom, 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 boom. The battle between the two was extremely intense. The purple light and the black light interweaved and clashed continuously, each occupying half of the sky. Luo Shan's attacks were ruthless, and each of them was extremely explosive. Murong Qingqing's eyesight was unparalleled. She could always block out Luo Shan's fatal attacks and attack her weak point. She was even more powerful than Mo Yan's sky demon eyes. Plus, every time a black light flashed in Murong Qingqing's eyes, her battling power would increase by a lot, which forced Luo Shan to defend for a while to avoid exposing a fatal flaw. I was wrong. Murong Qingqing does not seem to be weaker than Luo Shan. Doesn't that mean that her power is also at the same level as Mo Xiang? It is just that she did not show it before. Inside the South Rudra region, the weakest one would be Yi Chen. I really do not understand. Not necessarily. The South Rudra region is full of powerful warriors. Perhaps Yi Chen has hidden his power as well. That is not possible, right? Tuabaku, Xikongsheng, and Murong Qingqing are all at the demi-dragon level. Adding Yi Chen, it would be too much. Stop talking. The winner is about to be decided. Boom. The chi waves spread out on the battlefield as the two human figures were blown back. Flying sky assassination cut. Touching the ground with the tip of her foot, Murong Qingqing threw out her ace attack. Luo Shan's purple hair danced in the air as a deep purple light shot out from her eyes. She threw out a purple light arc with her spear, which blocked out Murong Qingqing's attack. Then, she twisted her body, holding another short spear in her left hand. She stabbed it towards Murong Qingqing's chest. That spear attack had almost blocked all of Murong Qingqing's escape route. Besides fighting it head-on, there would be no other option. And if she fought it head-on, then the one who would lose would probably be Murong Qingqing, since her attacking power was not as powerful as Luo Shan. Right then, a black light appeared on her skin. As the black light appeared, Murong Qingqing's chi field changed drastically. With the help of her chi, a black chi flow appeared above the Thunder City. However, all of a sudden, the black light on Murong Qingqing's skin disappeared, and the black chi flow above the Thunder City disappeared as well, as if it was just an illusion. Dong. In the end, Murong Qingqing lost to Luo Shan and was slightly wounded. Chapter 462. Jing Aoxuan, do you dare to fight me? Defeating Murong Qingqing did not satisfy Rakshasa's daughter. She turned around and stared at the Thunder Princess with her gem-like eyes. What? She wants to challenge Princess Jing? Such ambition. Does she plan to shake the entire southern sector? Perhaps it's the spirit of not admitting defeat between women. In this tea gathering, Princess Jing, Murong Qingqing, and her were the most dazzling ones. Now that she has defeated Murong Qingqing, only Princess Jing is left. I wonder if Princess Jing will accept the challenge? Thunder Princess Jing Aoxuan held the teacup in her hand and took a sip elegantly. She then put down the teacup and said lightly, "Why not?" Jing Aoxuan's voice was calm, and her movements were elegant. However, everyone could feel the domineering aura that was hidden in her bones. As she said that, the air currents in the sky seemed to have started to move and the weather changed. Sensing Jing Aoxuan's powerful aura, Rakshasa's daughter squinted her gem-like eyes, giving off a dangerous and serious change. Standing up, Jing Aoxuan walked over step by step. Let's begin. All right. The two were 100 meters apart, staring at each other quietly. Their gazes clashed, and their auras clashed. As their auras clashed, the space between the two made a strange noise, as if there was an electric current brewing, ready to explode at any moment. Luo Shan's pupils shrunk. Jing Aoshuan's power was even more powerful than she had imagined. Not only did her aura not get the upper hand, but it had also been sucked into a thunder tornado, being devoured and weakened. However, Rakshas's daughter did not panic. Since she dared to challenge the famous Thunder Princess, Jing Aoshuan, she naturally had the confidence to do so. Before she came, she had already trained the Rakshasa art to the 14th level, and had also trained 2 low-rank ultimacy martial arts to 40% mastery. Other than not having a real martial soul, she did not seem to have any weaknesses. Moreover, she had a purple chi pearl in her hand. This pearl was a high-grade treasure. Not only could it store a large amount of true essence within it, but it could also temporarily extract true essence to make one's true essence even more vigorous and surging, increasing one's battle prowess by quite a bit. Boom! Rakshas's daughter took a step forward. The surging purple light was like a small purple sun. The short spear in her right hand suddenly pierced out as fast as lightning. Pitter-patter! This stab of Rakshasi was extraordinary. It forcibly swept up a large number of airflow vortexes. The airflow vortexes rose and fell one after another, growing stronger and stronger. It compressed the space in which Jing Aoshuan could move. Ding! Just like Murong Qingqing, Jing Aoshuan wore gloves on her hands. Murong Qingqing's glove was made of golden silk, while Jing Aoshuan's glove was made of blue silk. The glove was smooth, thin, and slightly transparent. As Jing Aoshuan reached out with her right hand, the airflow vortexes shattered one after another. Finally, 2 fingers clamped onto the tip of Rakshas's spear, making a crisp sound of metal exploding. Arrogant! Rakshas's daughter saw that Jing Aoshuan had used 2 fingers to block her attack. Her face turned purple as she stabbed out with her other short spear. This spear was like a storm. It was Rakshas's daughter's attack that had been accumulating power. Jing Aoshuan looked calm. She rubbed her fingers that were clamping onto the tip of the spear, and a blue electric arc exploded. The high heat even caused the tip of the spear to show signs of melting, turning it bright red. Rakshas's daughter was stimulated by the electric arc. Her body went slightly numb, and her attack slowed down a bit. At that moment, Jing Aoshuan took back her fingers and clenched them into a fist, punching the incoming short spear. Clang! A large amount of sparks shot up into the sky, like fireworks exploding in front of the two of them. Well done! As expected of Jing Aoshuan. Jing Aoshuan's nonchalant attitude made Rakshas's daughter's fighting spirit even stronger. She leaped into the air and opened her arms. The 2 short spears spun a few times on her palms, as if she was holding 2 purple light wheels. Then, she swung them down fiercely, slashing out 2 arcs of light that tore the sky apart. Rakshas's daughter thought that Jing Aoshuan would temporarily avoid the attack, and take a few steps back. In that case, she would be able to perform her follow-up moves continuously, gaining the upper hand step by step until victory. Unexpectedly, Jing Aoshuan advanced instead of retreating. She took the initiative to enter the attack range of the arcs of light. Clang! 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 Her sky-blue sleeves fluttered as Jing Aoshuan continued to throw out punches. Each of her punches gave off a powerful and domineering aura. The fist pressure was also tightly attached to the front of her fists, forming a thin film with lightning flickering on it. The arcs of light from Rakshas's attack were all shattered under this pair of fists. Not giving an inch, indeed the style of the Thunder Princess. Since you don't want to, then I will retreat. Let's see who will be the one laughing in the end. Shoo! Seeing that her attack had failed, Rakshas's daughter suddenly retreated, coming and going as she pleased. Sigh! Edict Prince shook his head, not saying anything. Astral Spirit Sun slightly creased his brows, not saying anything either. You think you can retreat? 2 arcs of lightning flashed in front of Jing Aoshuan's eyes. With her as the center, the air within 3 meters instantly turned into a vacuum, causing the surrounding air to squeeze towards her. At the same time, Rakshas's retreat was like a boat going against the current, her speed decreasing rapidly. World Domination Fist. Boom. The radiating fist energy exploded, causing blood to leak out from the corner of Rakshas's daughter's mouth. So that's how it is. If I don't retreat, I will still have a chance. But once I do, there will be no chance at all. Rakshas's daughter was clear in her mind. She knew that she had made a huge mistake in front of Jing Aoxuan. Biting her lips, a purple mist rose from her face as the purple chi pearl on her neck poured a huge amount of Zhen Yuan into her body. With the addition of this Zhen Yuan, her aura increased drastically. The purple light around her body had already made the sun in the sky lose its color. Purple light sky strike. A purple light ball condensed on the tip of her spear as Rakshasa threw it at Jing Aoxuan. It was indeed one of the 2 profound sense martial arts she had mastered. Extreme Emperor World Domination Fist. From the beginning, Jing Aoxuan had not taken a single step back, and it was the same at this moment. She took a step forward and threw out another fist. However, this fist was twice as powerful as the previous one. The radiating fist energy tore through the sky and spread out. Pooh! Rakshas's daughter's spear couldn't go any further because a fist was blocking it. She wanted to use her left hand to deliver a second strike, but the radiant fist force had already traveled along the spear's body, sending her flying into the air. She opened her mouth and spat out a mouthful of blood. 1 step back, and then all the steps back. This was the biggest taboo when fighting with Jing Aoxuan. Stabilizing herself, Rakshas's daughter wiped the blood off her lip. Royal martial arts are indeed powerful. There is no such thing as taking a step back. Actually, she knew that even if she did not take a step back, she would not be Jing Aoxuan's opponent. At most, she would only be able to buy some time, which would be pointless. Jing Aoxuan said, "You are already very powerful to be able to force me to use my Extreme Emperor World Domination Fist. A loss is a loss. I admit defeat." Rakshas's daughter was not someone who could not afford to lose. Plus, losing to Jing Aoxuan was expected, but winning was unexpected. After that, the 2 returned to their seat. Indeed, Princess Jing has won. Isn't that obvious? Even if the Edict Prince and the Astral Spirit Son were to fight against Princess Jing, they would still be on par. Rakshas's daughter is still a bit weaker after all. It seems like it will still be a 3-way battle this year. Everyone was discussing, their voices filled with excitement. Haha, since the martial tea gathering has been held, we will have to find out who is stronger. Lu Han, let's have a battle. It was Tua Baku who had spoken. He had not beaten Emo Xiang yet, so he had been itching for a fight. Lu Han and Emo Xiang were 2 different types of young warriors, and they would be powerful opponents. Alright. Lu Han was also filled with a powerful battling intent. Not only him, Emo Xiang, Sikong Shing, Rakshas's daughter, and the other dragon-level warriors would not let it go just like that. The 2 had similar power, so the battle had reached its climax right from the beginning. The chi waves created by the collisions had almost shattered the Zhen Yuan wall that everyone had created. White Tiger Kill. Lu Han had thrown out his ace attack. Tua Baku's comprehensive ability was not as good as Lu Han's, so the power of his ace attack was not as powerful as Lu Han's as well. But he had a powerful bloodline. A huge shadow with a lizard's body and a dragon's head appeared behind his back. The shadow's neck was extended, and the dragon's head appeared in front of Tua Baku, blocking that attack for him. Then, that huge shadow's foot that was covered in scales reached out and slapped Lu Han away. With his talent, Tua Baku had beaten Lu Han after a hard battle. Of course, it did not mean that Lu Han was not as powerful as Emo Xiang. It was just that Lu Han's attacking style was not as powerful as Emo Xiang's. Therefore, he could not suppress Tua Baku at all. The battle between the two had ignited everyone's battling intent. Emo Xiang could not hold it anymore. He walked out, wanting to challenge Tuabaku again. It was not that he did not want to challenge the others, but Sikong Sheng and Lu Hun had been wounded, Lu Hun and Tuabaku had been wounded, and Rakshasa and Jing Aoxuan had been wounded as well. Although it was not a big deal, he did not want to take advantage of them. As for Murong Qingqing, he did not want to face her at all. Even though he knew that Murong Qingqing's power was not weaker than hers, he just could not bring himself to do it. Therefore, only Tuabaku was not wounded. After 1 night and half a day, the two's wounds had already been healed for a long time. Right now, Tuabaku had only used up a little bit of Zhen Yuan. Tuabaku was about to accept the challenge when Yi Chen stood up. Tuabaku, let me have this battle. You have used up quite a bit of Zhen Yuan. Tuabaku seemed to have thought of something as he smiled and walked down the stage. Emo Xiang looked shocked. Could it be? Meanwhile, the people who were drinking tea started to discuss and express their opinions. No way. Yi Chen is going to challenge Emo Xiang. Emo Xiang is a true dragon-level warrior, which is even more powerful than the Black Sword artist. The reverse sky thunder cut will probably have no effect on him at all. This is no longer a matter of martial arts. It is a matter of basic power. Judging on martial arts, Emo Xiang is not weaker than anyone else. Therefore, even if he had hidden more powerful ace attacks, it would still not work. Is it just for the sake of a challenge? Or maybe he saw that Tuabaku had used up a lot of Zhen Yuan during the battle with Lu Hun, so he decided to fight for him. When Emo Xiang was battling with Tuabaku, the blue qi flow that came out of his body was very powerful. It was also the biggest reason why he was able to fight against Tuabaku's giant lizard shadow. Therefore, not many people thought that Yi Chen would be able to win against Emo Xiang with only his sword spirit-level sword intent. Chapter 463. Inside the pavilion, Yi Chen's body shook once as he appeared 100 steps in front of Emo Xiang like a ghost. If you still have the same power as before, you will not be able to win against me. You will lose. Emo Xiang was not sure about Yi Chen, so he tried to test him. Yi Chen said lightly, "Just try your best." Emo Xiang did not know where Yi Chen got his confidence from, but he could vaguely tell that this battle would not be easy. Yi Chen obviously still had some hidden attack. But, even if he did, so what? Unless one had learned a profound sense martial art and had learned it to 50%. Unfortunately, 50% of a profound sense martial art was almost the dividing line. Beyond 50%, one would need to use the profound sense to push it, and the poetic perspective would be useless. In other words, without the corresponding profound sense, one would not be able to learn beyond 50% of a profound sense martial art, which would be the true essence of a profound sense martial art. Whether I need to try my best or not, it is up to me to decide. Just as he finished speaking, Emo Xiang bent both of his legs and jumped into the air. It was still the wild goose attack that he had used against Tuabaku. Although the wild goose attack was simple, and it was not a secret anymore, it was performed by Emo Xiang without any flaws, and it was as fast as a shooting star. His body glided in the air as Emo Xiang's right knee attacked toward Yi Chen with a blue shooting star tail flame. Extremely fast. Extremely fast. This attack had accumulated all of Emo Xiang's explosive power. Right then, there was no point in trying to break through the attack, because under such extreme speed, there would be no time to do so. However, he was fast, but Yi Chen was even faster. The fast part was to take out the sword. In Yi Chen's hands, the process of taking out the sword could be skipped. His mind moved, his hand moved, and the sword qi exploded, tearing apart the sky. Boom! The crescent-shaped sword light and the blue shooting star light clashed together. A circular shockwave spread out, and the Zhen Yuan wall around them made a cracking sound. Such a fast sword taking speed! Emo Xiang's pupils shrank. The wild goose attack had been blocked out, and the python attack had been stopped. It was the complete opposite of when he was battling against Tuo Baku. Without changing his posture, Yi Chen slid forward with his feet on the ground, but his eyes had already locked onto Mo Xiang, who was exposed by the shockwave, and he slashed at him. The sword Qi, which contained the sword spirit-level sword intent, tore through the air and cut through Mo Xiang's protective Zhen Yuan like a sharp knife. Puff! The sword Qi was shattered. Blue Qi surged on Mo Xiang's palm, boiling like fire. At the waist of his clothes there was a cut. Looking down at his waist and then at Yi Chen, Mo Xiang's expression became much more serious. The blue airflow on his right palm suddenly burst out and he swung his hand. Tiger Soul Palm. The blue light palm was like a hot knife through butter, its destructive power multiplied. Mo Xiang was sure that with Yi Chen's current strength, it would be very difficult for him to block the Tiger Soul Palm, and the Tiger Soul Palm was not his strongest attack. It seems like I have to increase my sword intent. The center of his eyebrows slightly swelled, and the sword intent around Yi Chen's body increased drastically. If it was a beginner sword spirit-level sword intent before, then it was now a peak-level beginner sword spirit-level sword intent. As the sword intent grew stronger, Yi Chen's whole body looked like a great sword, showing off its sharpness. Even the people outside of the battle could feel that sharp willpower. Sky Thunder Cut. He was holding the destruction sword in his hand. Although it was not as good as the Thunder Sword, it was still better than the Greenwood Sword. The sword light sliced down, cutting open the blue light palm instantly. What? His sword intent increased again? It was not a hidden ace attack, but a hidden power. Everyone was shocked, but soon realized what was going on. Take my Tiger Soul cross cut. No one knew when, but Mo Xiang jumped up into the sky. Both of his arms exploded with a blue flame like qi flow, burning fiercely. Then, he crossed his arms and lifted them up high, waving them down. Reverse Sky Thunder Cut. Yi Chen had already prepared for this attack. He held the Thunder Sword's hilt with his left hand and pulled it out, waving upwards. The blue sword light wrapped around the cross light. Boom! Eventually, the sword light and the cross light were both shattered. The aftershock had shattered a lot of Zhen Yuan walls. Fortunately, there were more people there to support the Zhen Yuan walls. Mo Xiang was not surprised, since the reverse Sky Thunder Cut was way more powerful than the Sky Thunder Cut. It was expected that it would be able to block out the Tiger Soul Cross Cut. This is your real power. But I have not shown my real power yet. Whoosh! Not only his arms, but Mo Xiang's whole body had exploded with blue qi flow. These blue qi flows rubbed against each other, looking like a blue flame, burning fiercely. During the battle with Tuo Baku, he had planned to use his peak power, but he was stopped by the Thunder Princess. Of course, he also knew that the huge lizard shadow behind Tuo Baku was not simple, and the result was still unknown. But Yi Chen was not Tuo Baku, and would not be able to block out his peak power. Mo Xiang is going to use all of his power now. I wonder if Yi Chen can handle it. Probably not. Yi Chen has already used all of his attacks, and Mo Xiang has only just started. Yeah. This blue qi flow is too horrifying. With the blue qi flow, Mo Xiang's power has almost doubled. As the crowd discussed, Tuo Baku stared at Yi Chen without blinking. Yi Chen, Mo Xiang has already used his most powerful ace. What about you? What do you have? Not only Tuo Baku, everyone was making guesses. The black sword artist who had lost to Yi Chen, the deadly sword artist Ling Zhua who had never battled with Yi Chen before, Luo Shanv who had just won a lot, Lu Hun who had lost to Tuo Baku, Xikong Sheng who had no expression on his face, and even the Thunder Princess Jing Aoshuan, the Edict Prince, and the Astral Spirit Sun. When have I ever shown my real power? Putting the Thunder Sword back into its scabbard, Yi Chen's sword intent did not decrease, but increased to an extremely horrifying level. That sword intent was so real that it had even shaken up the surreal space, and the sword sound had reached deep into people's souls. Eventually, the sword intent had nowhere to go, so it shot up into the sky. Mid-rank sword spirit level sword intent. What is going on? The sword intent is still increasing. This sword intent is already not weaker than some of the powerful Sea of Souls realm sword artists. Perhaps he has been using the same level of power to fight with his opponents, and as his opponent's power increases, so does his. So horrifying! How can an astral-reaching realm warrior have such a horrifying sword intent? Mo Xiang was shocked. He thought that his opponent had already used up all of his tricks, but who knew that he would only reveal his real power now? If it were not for his power, he would not be able to force his opponent to use his real power. No wonder he had asked him to use all of his power from the beginning. Alright, now it will be interesting. The soaring sword intent had stimulated Mo Xiang's battling intent to the peak. His condition had never been better, and the blue flame on his body was burning brighter and brighter. Take this. With the blue flame wrapped around his body, Mo Xiang's speed, defense, and attack had all reached a whole new level. With a flash, he appeared in front of Yi Chen within a second, throwing out a palm attack. It was indeed the Tiger Soul Palm, but it was not over yet. His other hand curved up and slashed down. Holding the sword with both of his hands, Yi Chen's hair danced in the air as he threw out two sky thunder cut attacks in a row. Boom! No one knew how many of the Zhen Yuan walls had been shattered. Almost half of the people had joined in the training of Zhen Yuan walls, but the battle between the two had just begun. Tiger Soul Cross Cut. Reverse Sky Thunder Cut. The two of them did not have many killing moves, but because they were fast enough, it was overwhelming. Moreover, when the same move was used in different situations, it would have different effects. Every step was shocking. I have already learned the 9th movement of the Green Lotus sword art. But the best steel should be used on the blade, not now. As he fought, Yi Chen thought to himself. If Mo Xiang knew about this, he would be very disappointed, which meant that Yi Chen still had some power left. Back out! Mo Xiang rushed out of the battle and threw out another Tiger Soul cross-cut. Time to end this. Holding the Destruction Sword in his right hand and the Thunder Sword in his left hand, Yi Chen slightly lowered his body, looking like a cheetah that was about to attack. Sky Thunder Cut. Reverse Sky Thunder Cut. Both swords were thrown out at the same time. Cross Cut. In front of everyone's shocked eyes, the bright sword light seemed to have divided the sky into 4 parts, and the crossing point was exactly Mo Xiang, who was still in the sky. Pooh! The 2 sword lights combined together had not only shattered the cross light, but also blew Mo Xiang into the sky. There was a cross sword mark on his chest, with blood splashing everywhere. Yi Chen had won. Until Mo Xiang fell to the ground, the pavilion was silent, not a single sound could be heard. Then, no one knew who was the first to let out a gasp, but the pavilion immediately exploded. The discussions were so loud that it was hard to tell who was speaking. Double sword style? What a joke! This is like 2 sword artists attacking Mo Xiang at the same time. Can one really use 2 ace attacks at the same time? Everyone understood that it was easy to use one sword with each hand, but it would be extremely hard to bring out one's peak power at the same time, not to mention performing 2 ace attacks. Not to mention the problem of body coordination, it would not be enough for one to do 2 things at the same time, because it would affect one's fighting power as well. Unless one could do 3 things at the same time or 4 things at the same time, they would be able to make better use of it. Otherwise, everyone would be using 2 swords and 2 blades at the same time. Yi Chen had shocked the world with one brilliant move. Double sword style, scary. Li Daoxian could not find words to describe his shock anymore, so he could only use the word scary. Yan Qihua's mouth twitched a little, but he could not say anything. Mu Lingfeng, who had a bit of admiration for Yi Chen, squeezed the teacup in his hand tightly, as if he could not believe his own eyes. Only when the teacup shattered and the tea splashed out did he wake up. I thought I had caught up to him, and even had the illusion that I had surpassed him. Sigh. Tua Baku knew that he was not Yi Chen's opponent, so there was no need to compete. Crawling up from the ground, Emo Xiang looked at Yi Chen blankly, watching that Yi Chen put his sword back into its scabbard with a calm face. The pain in his chest seemed to have been forgotten, and only his qi and blood were boiling. The latter had surprised him too much, so much that he did not know what to feel. Besides the Edict Prince, no one had made him lose so badly. Yi Chen was the second. So, this is your real power, your extraordinary battle skills. Martial arts were important, but so were battle skills. Powerful warriors could even use their battle skills to play a decisive role. Without a doubt, Yi Chen was this kind of person, this kind of sword artist. Chapter 464. Returning the two swords to their sheaths, Yi Chen slowly raised his head and looked at Emo Xiang, who was not far away. Emo Xiang's strength was actually very powerful, having long surpassed the boundary of astral-reaching paragons. In other words, even if an extreme astral-reaching expert were equipped with an upper-grade artifact, they would still not be his opponent. This was because Emo Xiang was no longer at the astral-reaching realm. Beyond this realm, he could barely contend against the weakest sea of soul realm expert. Naturally, he was not someone an astral-reaching paragons could compare with. Unfortunately, Yi Chen was even more powerful than his opponent. Back on Blue Mountain Island, his battle power was already twice that of an astral-reaching paragons. After that, he had been progressing with every passing second, not only in terms of basic strength, but also in techniques and sword Dao cultivation base. With the three great sword wills gathered in one body, how could he not progress? Staying where he was would be a disgrace. Dual Sword King is the king of dual sword style. His slaughter will targets any living thing. Only he can bring out the dual sword style to its peak. Right now I am merely at the tip of the iceberg. Yi Chen was very clear that he was able to use dual swords, but it was only the basics. Of course, even if it was just the basics, it was still not something that normal people could learn. Normal people would never be able to multitask, or even multitask. Besides that, in order to use dual swords, one's soul would have to be more powerful than others. Otherwise, in the long run, it would be very easy to develop schizophrenia. The road I have to walk is still very long. Yi Chen could not help but sigh. Nobody knew why Yi Chen sighed, but under the gentle breeze, Yi Chen, who was dressed in blue robes and had a handsome and elegant appearance, gave people a feeling of being alone and admiring himself. Some of the arrogant beauties were mesmerized. Dual sword style is indeed the top battle technique. I accept my loss wholeheartedly. Adjusting his qi and blood, Emo Xiang cupped his fists towards Yi Chen with a pale face. Yi Chen nodded and said nothing. After Emo Xiang left the stage, Yi Chen followed him. Today was the second day of the tea gathering. In the first 2 days, the 3 true dragon-level experts would not fight each other. Tomorrow would be the climax of the tea gathering. As for Rakshasa's daughter challenging Thunder Princess Jing Aoshuan, it was already against the rules. Jing Aoshuan could reject it until tomorrow. Next, the injured quasi-true dragon rank experts focused on healing their wounds and trying to recover to their peak condition. The ones who went out to spar were the young elites of the first and second level. It was undeniable that the Thunder region, being called the strongest region in the southern sector, was not without reason. Although they did not have as many top warriors as the South Rudra region, which only had 3, their core strength could be said to be frightening. It was 10 times more than the South Rudra region, and several times more than the other regions. Floating Light region and Gold Sand region were a bit weaker than the Thunder region, but they were still powerful. Any random young elite from them would be an expert. Tua Baku shook his head. If South Rudra region wants to get rid of its outer appearance as a weak region, it will not be enough with just us. We can guarantee our position for the next few rounds, but after that we will not participate anymore. Yi Chen said, the requirements for the tea gathering are too high. Otherwise, it would be better to bring more people. You're right. Let them see the gap between them and the outside world. Only then will they disregard everything and work hard, racing against time. Everything required fighting spirit. If one did not interact with the outside world for a long time, his fighting spirit would disappear, and he would not be able to maintain his peak condition. As a result, his progress would naturally slow down. There were many geniuses in the world, but how many of them were stuck in one place and ended up being mediocre for the rest of their lives? The two would talk occasionally, but most of the time they would be watching the battles. Although the low-level battles were not that interesting, once one calmed down, they would be able to see their own shortcomings from the others. For example, Yi Chen had watched dozens of young warriors who had mastered the wood mentality battle, so he was able to comprehend the 9th movement of the Green Lotus sword art. If he were to try to comprehend it by himself, it would take him at least 10 times more time. This was the importance of learning from others, and also the other meaning of the tea gathering. The sun went down and the night arrived. When the darkness disappeared, it was already the morning of the second day. South Rudra region's Sikong Sheng would like to learn from Edict Prince Li Xiaoyun. When the first beam of sunlight shone down from the sky, a voice that was not loud shocked everyone. Everyone looked towards the source of the voice. It was Sikong Sheng. Sikong Sheng wants to challenge the Edict Prince? The Edict Prince is the number 1 warrior of the Floating Light region, and Lu Hun is the number 2. Sikong Sheng had just lost to Lu Hun yesterday, so how could he beat the Edict Prince? You can't say it like that. The Edict Prince was indeed the number 1 warrior of the Floating Light region 2 years ago. But the Edict Prince from 2 years ago was not much different from the current dragon-level warriors. Who knows if he has made any progress, or if his progress was not as big as expected. It is not impossible, but it is very small. While everyone was discussing, the black-robed Sikong Sheng flew out and stood in the center of the stage, a threatening cold light flickering in his eyes. Edict Prince Li Xiaoyun was slightly startled, as if he didn't expect that the first one to challenge him would be Sikong Sheng. He thought that in this tea gathering, it would still be Jing Aoxuan or Astral Spirit Sun who would spar with him. Yu Xin, who was standing on the side, said, "Let me deal with him." Li Xiaoyun smiled lightly, "No need. It seems like they are doubting my strength, thinking that I have not made much progress in the past 2 years." After finishing his words, he patted Yu Xin's soft little hand, stood up, and walked towards the spacious stage. Li Xiaoyun's clothes were just like his name, full of a mysterious aura. The elegant 7-star robe made him look even more carefree. Shoo! Approaching the center of the stage, a bright silver iron fan appeared in Li Xiaoyun's hand, and a wave of great weapon vibrations spread out. Yi Chen thought to himself, there are not many people who use a fan as a weapon, and fan-type weapons are even rarer. But it is because of this that it is so hard to deal with. Boom! Waiting until Li Xiaoyun was 100 meters away from him, Sikong Sheng made his move. It was an extremely horrifying low-rank profound sense martial art, earth core sinking. As the earth core sinking was performed, an endless gravitational force landed on Li Xiaoyun's body, forcing him to be unable to move. Of course, Li Xiaoyun did not plan to move at all. Dragon Fan Dance. Facing Sikong Sheng's ace attack, Li Xiaoyun rubbed his thumb, and the bright silver iron fan opened up like a peacock opening its tail. He then waved it towards the right, drawing a bright silver trail in the air. Hoo! 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 This fan seemed to have gathered all the wind yuan qi in the world, and a dragon-like tornado appeared out of nowhere, attacking towards Sikong Sheng. Sikong Sheng's pupils shrank. He did not care about normal tornadoes, but the one Li Xiaoyun had thrown out was extraordinarily powerful. It could easily shatter mountains, and that dragon-like body was shining with a crystal light, which was an extremely condensed phenomenon. The fist power landed on the tornado, and 30% of its power was immediately cancelled out by the tornado's rotating power. The remaining 70% could not stop the tornado at all. Boom! Boom! Since one punch was not enough, Sikong Shing threw out 2 more punches, and the tornado disappeared right away. Pear flower dance. Li Xiaoyun had a smile on his face as he walked over step by step. He waved the iron fan in his hand slightly, and a pear flower-shaped tornado shot towards Sikong Shing. Sikong Shing crossed both of his arms and was blown away. Scythe blade dance. Another 2 scythe-like wind blades were thrown out. If it were released by normal people, it would be very easy for them to dodge. However, it was performed by Li Xiaoyun, and it was just that magical. Sikong Shing had only dodged the first one, but was blown away by the second one, with blood dripping down from the corner of his mouth. Too powerful! They are not even at the same level. Who said that the Edict Prince did not improve enough? In my opinion, even the Jing Princess would not be his opponent. I did not expect the Edict Prince to be this powerful. Sikong Shing, who was at the quasi-true dragon level, did not even have the power to fight back, and the Edict Prince did not even get serious. At first, I thought that the 3 true dragon level experts were only a bit stronger than the quasi-true dragon level expert. But now it seems like they are not just a bit stronger, but a whole level stronger. Everyone was shocked by the Edict Prince's power, including the people of South Rudra region. Tua Baku smacked his lips, his face dumbfounded. How was this a spar? One was blown away even after going all out, while the other was playing it down with a smile on his face. However, the might he had displayed while playing it down was shocking. This was the Edict Prince's strength. Before the Thunder Princess became famous, he was the #1 expert of the Southern Rudra region. Even now, a lot of people believed that the Edict Prince was still the #1 expert, and the Thunder Princess and Astral Spirit Son were slightly inferior. Of course, whether it was true or not would have to be observed. Who knew how much of the Thunder Princess's strength had been used? As for the Astral Spirit Son, he had not made a single move from the beginning to the end. He is indeed very powerful. Yi Chun had never felt threatened by anyone of the same generation, not even when he was facing Sikong Shing in the Hidden Dragon rank competition. However, at this moment, he felt the terror of the Edict Prince. He was clear that he had no choice but to go all out. Just when everyone thought that Sikong Shing was about to lose the spar, an evil chi suddenly erupted from his body. A berserk martial will erupted, covering the entire Pointer River stage and the majority of the beautiful garden. This martial will was not an ordinary one. It was an evil martial will. This is the ace I left behind. Now I will use it on you. Let's see how you can endure it. Sikong Shing punched toward Li Xiaoyun, his evil intent wreaking havoc. Evil martial will. Not bad, but its level is too low. Wait until you condense a true evil soul, then perhaps you will be able to fight against me. But not now. Li Xiaoyun shook his head. The iron fan in his hand spun and shook. Fan dance, 7-star kill. Poochie, 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 Poochie. 7 cold stars appeared around Sikong Shing's body. The 7 cold stars were connected to each other, looking like the Big Dipper 7 stars, shining brightly. Poochie, Poochie. Puking out a huge amount of blood, the evil intent on Sikong Shing's body froze for a second before he was blown backward. Li Xiaoyun had won. All the people who were watching the battle in the pavilion were shocked. Sikong Shing had used his most powerful ace, the ace he would rather lose to Lu Hun than expose, the evil martial will. He thought that it would be enough to fight against the Edict Prince, but it was still not enough. The Edict Prince only needed to get slightly serious to defeat him easily. In everyone's eyes, the Edict Prince, Li Xiaoyun, seemed to be standing on top of a mountain, looking down at the world. He waved the iron fan in his hand, waving it in the sky. Chapter 465. Although Sikong Shing lost to Edict Prince Li Xiaoyun, he is not simple either. He actually hid the evil will. He should have comprehended it from the evil king, right? Recovering from his thoughts, Tua Baku said to Yi Chen. Yi Chen nodded. There were many Daos that had separated from the martial Dao, such as the Sword Dao, Demonic Dao, Blade Dao, and naturally, the Evil Dao. The Evil Dao's position was even higher than the Blade Dao, and was equivalent to the Sword Dao and Demonic Dao. The evil will it had evolved from was somewhat similar to the Demonic Dao, but it was a bit more gentle, not as unbridled, cruel, and cold-blooded. The fact that Sikong Shing could comprehend the evil will was enough to prove his comprehension ability. However, compared to the Edict Prince, he was still a bit too naive. The latter had become famous before anyone here. Even with the evil will, he couldn't even withstand a single blow. How could this so-called Edict Prince be so powerful? The 6th and 7th Knights exchanged a glance. In the Evil King Pavilion, only the 1st and 4th Knights, Sikong Shing, had comprehended the evil will. The others didn't. This was also the reason why the Evil King valued Sikong Shing so much. With the evil will, even if Sikong Shing didn't condense a true evil soul, his offensive power would still surpass the low-grade martial spirit. However, he still couldn't withstand a single blow. Edict Prince Li Xiaoyun was too frightening. The battle between Edict Prince and Sikong Shing had caused too much of a commotion, to the point that the battles of the fake dragon level didn't attract much attention. Only when the battle of the quasi-dragon level began did some people calm down. If the first 2 days of the tea gathering were the appetizers, then the 3rd day would be the main meal. The participants of the battle were all experts above the fake dragon level. Right now, it was Gold Sand Region's Luo Shanv and Floating Light Region's Lu Hun. Lu Hun was very powerful, but Luo Shanv was even more powerful. After 100 moves, she defeated Lu Hun. After that, it was the second battle between Tua Baku and Mo Xiang. In this battle, Thunder Princess Jing Aoshuan had said that no lives could be lost. If they could stop in time, it would be best if they could. If they still couldn't decide the winner, then it would still be a draw. Once the battle had begun, Tua Baku had released his huge lizard shadow while Mo Xiang's body started to burn with a blue qi flow. The two were ready to use all of their power right from the beginning. Tua Baku's giant lizard shadow was good at both offense and defense, without any weakness. Mo Xiang's speed, defense, and attack had been doubled. His battling power was horrifying, and he was more focused on attacking. But eventually Tua Baku lost. He had not lost in terms of power, but in terms of endurance. The huge lizard shadow consumed a lot of Zhen Yuan. After 1,000 attacks, the Zhen Yuan inside his body had been completely emptied. Of course, Mo Xiang was not any better. After beating Tua Baku, he was soaked in sweat, and his legs had even gone soft. Then, it was time for Lu Hun's battle. He was not wounded that badly, and Tua Baku and Mo Xiang had been battling for a long time, which gave him plenty of time to recover. Plus, as a true dragon-level martial genius, the pellets provided by the martial institutions were not normal, and could not be bought even with spirit stones. This was also the reason why everyone could recover so fast during the tea gathering. Lu Hun's opponent was Murong Qingqing. As for Sikong Shing, he had not fully recovered yet. Murong Qingqing's attacking power was not that powerful, which was below average among the true dragon-level warriors. On the other hand, Lu Hun's defense was very powerful. Even if it was not number 1, it would be number 2. Therefore, this battle was extremely tough, and no one could do anything to the other. Thunder Princess Jing Aoshuan could only announce it as a draw. Chu Zhongtian, I have not seen you make a move yet. I would like to see it for myself. After Sikong Shing challenged the Edict Prince Li Xiaoyun, another bomb was dropped on the stage. Yi Chen was going to challenge the astral spirit son, Chu Zhongtian. Wearing blue robes and with a long sword on his waist, Yi Chen stood on the stage and looked at the astral spirit son, Chu Zhongtian. Chu Zhongtian frowned slightly, seeming to be unhappy as he said lightly, "You better back off. There is no need for a battle between you and me." Why doesn't the astral spirit son accept the challenge? Earlier, Luo Shan challenged Princess Jing, and Xikong Sheng challenged the Edict Prince, Li Xiaoyun. Both of them accepted the challenge. Haven't you seen it? The astral spirit son thinks that Yi Chen is not his opponent, and he doesn't want to fight. Look at his face. Those with good eyesight were able to see the blood on the first prick. This is a bit too much. Even if Yi Chen is not as powerful as him, there is no need for him to not accept the challenge. The astral spirit son has always been like this. He is arrogant and does whatever he wants, but he does have the right to be arrogant. I wonder how Yi Chen is going to deal with this. His dual sword style should not be underestimated. He might have a chance. Yi Chen was not angry. He raised his eyebrows and said, "You don't dare to accept the challenge?" Picking up the teacup and taking a sip, Chu Zhongtian lowered his eyes. "You still don't understand what I'm saying? You are not my opponent. The so-called dual sword style is nothing in front of me. So, I don't need to waste my time on you." Yi Chen smiled, but there was a hint of weirdness in his smile. Seeming to feel that Chu Zhongtian had spoken, Luo Shan stood up. "Yi Chen, since my head disciple doesn't want to fight, why don't I spar with you for a bit?" "No need. He will come out." "Shoo." If the opponent did not want to come out, then he would fight him. Taking out the thunder sword, Yi Chen threw out a sky thunder cut toward the pavilion where the astral spirit sun was. This sky thunder cut was definitely not ordinary, because it contained a peak-level spirit sword intent, which was much more powerful than the one he had used against Mo Xiang. Luo Shan had not expected that Yi Chen would attack just like that. Her eyebrows creased as she tried to defend against the sword light with a serious expression. However, her power was only at the same level as Mo Xiang's. How could she possibly defend against this sky thundercut? A purple light flashed as her whole body was blown away, and the pavilion was about to be cut into two. Swoosh! The sword light disappeared as Chu Zhongtian had shattered it with a single punch. After throwing out this punch, Chu Zhongtian slowly stood up. As he stood up, the space within a radius of tens of meters, including the pavilion, seemed to be shaking, as if it could not withstand the pressure of Chu Zhongtian's aura. "Your power is indeed not bad, but my current level is still too early for you." Pausing for a while, Chu Zhongtian continued, "Since you insist on fighting with me, I will fulfill your wish. Let me warn you first, this battle will be very fast. Don't hold any hope." Although Chu Zhongtian's attitude was arrogant, it had undoubtedly ignited the passion of everyone present, including Thunder Princess Jing Aoshuan and Edict Prince Li Xiaoyun. They all attached great importance to this battle, because they could vaguely see the astral spirit sun's power. As long as you're willing to fight, it's fine. As for the result, you don't need to worry about it, because you will find that the result is not within your expectations. Yi Chen's voice was very calm. Chu Zhongtian stared at Yi Chen, the corner of his mouth twitching. "In the past year, I've fought with 13 spirit realm experts. Among them, I've killed 2, defeated 7, and fought 4 to a draw. Among them, there was a swordsman." While speaking, Chu Zhongtian took out his weapon, a dark red mace with many sections connected to each other. It was very heavy with a smooth tip. Everyone present could not suppress their astonishment. They all knew that the astral spirit son had fought with spirit realm experts, but no one knew that he had fought with as many as 13, and 2 of them had died in his hands. Moreover, he had defeated 7. This result was enough to shock the world. Looking at Yi Chen, Chu Zhongtian said, "Against you, 60% of my power is enough." While speaking, the mace in his hand ignited a dark red air current that was like a mist. As soon as it came in contact with the air, a large area immediately turned into a vacuum. Yi Chen squinted his eyes. Although the astral spirit sun was arrogant, his strength was not to be underestimated. The true yuan qi that was emitted had burned the air, which meant that the opponent's true yuan had reached an unimaginable level. At least, he had never seen anyone's true yuan that could directly evaporate the air, not to mention the true yuan qi that was emitted. Just a strand of true yuan qi was already so frightening. Then, what about true yuan? It should be at least several times stronger than true yuan qi. Take my mace first. From afar, Chu Zhongtian waved his mace. A dark red shadow tore through the sky, carrying a mountain-shattering momentum as it attacked toward Yi Chen. What harm is there in taking your mace? Yi Chen raised the thunder sword and slashed out. Rumble. It was just a normal exchange between the two, but the shockwave created was far more powerful than any battle between quasi-true Dragon Realm experts. Countless true yuan barriers were shattered. Not bad, barely enough to pique my interest. No one saw how Chu Zhongtian moved. By the time his voice arrived, he had already arrived in front of Yi Chen and attacked 46 times. Each attack was extremely powerful, as if there was a mountain compressed within. What was more frightening was that the person holding the mace was even more powerful than a mountain. Boom, 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 boom. Shockwaves suddenly exploded on the open field. Within the shockwaves, mace shadows flew everywhere and sword qi crisscrossed. If not for the thunder pattern iron's restriction power protecting it, it would have been torn apart countless times already. Nearly 400 people opened their eyes wide, wanting to see the exchange between the two clearly. However, those who could clearly see the battle could be counted on one hand. The rest of the people were in a daze and could not see anything clearly. Fuck. What kind of speed is this? What kind of attacking power is this? Just the shockwave alone is enough to tear me into pieces. It's like fighting in a superstorm. The more they could not see clearly, the more excited they became. Because they could not see clearly, it meant how terrifying the battle between the two was. It was a battle beyond their imagination. They admired Yi Chen from the bottom of their hearts for being able to last this long. But at the same time, they could not help but gasp at Astral Spirit Sun's power. This was 60% of his power, and if he were to use all of it, it would be enough to turn the sky upside down. In the center of the expanding shockwaves, Yi Chen slashed Chu Zhongtian's shadow into pieces. His expression did not change as he turned around to defend against the real attack. Pung! The sword and the talisman clashed. The blue sword qi and the dark red talisman shadow clashed together, creating a spiral-shaped explosion. 90% of the Zhen Yuan barrier was shattered instantly, and a lot of people puked out blood. They were blown out of the stage, their faces pale. Let's go to the sky. Yi Chen shot up into the sky. Chapter 466. Chu Zhongtian sneered and chased after him with his dark red rapier. The two, one in front and one behind, were like two beams of aurora, one blue and one red. Up in the sky, the two of them were no longer restrained. Both of them raised their speed to a new height. Two beams of aurora kept clashing against each other, and shock waves rippled out from their collisions. The blue and red shock waves formed a marvelous sight in the sky above Thunder City. Swish! After another clash, the two retreated several hundred meters away from each other. I admit that your strength is a bit higher than I had imagined. The two's exchange just now was too fast, and it was purely a battle of speed. Therefore, Chu Zhongtian did not use any of his powerful moves. Yi Chen glanced at the dark red rapier in Chu Zhongtian's hand and said indifferently, "This is just the beginning. Actually, you were testing my strength, and I was also testing yours. Without sufficient strength, I might not be able to use my full strength." Although the two's tone was not high, under the amplification of Zhen Yuan, it could be heard dozens of li away. Hearing Yi Chen's reply, everyone was dumbfounded. Earlier, Astral Spirit Sun had said that Yi Chen was not worthy of exchanging pointers with him, and that he could defeat him with only 60% of his strength. Who would have thought that Yi Chen also had the same thought, thinking that astral spirit son would not use his full strength if he did not display his strength. My God, is this really Yi Chen's first time participating in the tea gathering? Why do I feel that he is treating himself as a true dragon-level expert? Experts all have the bearing of an expert. If they can save some strength, they will. Yi Chen's words made the spectators within dozens of li excited. They knew that this exchange would not be simple. Chu Zhongtian's expression turned slightly cold. Be careful of your tongue being cut by the wind. It won't be too late to talk after receiving one of my moves. I'll accompany you to the end. The sword intent emitted from Yi Chen's body seemed to have materialized. The two looked at each other from a distance. Their majestic auras clashed, causing hurricanes to blow up in the sky and clouds to gather and disperse. Almost at the same time, the two moved, charging straight at each other. Boom! The two objects approached each other at an extreme speed. The space between them could not bear the pressure and exploded. Fragmentation mace. On the way, the dark red mace in Chu Zhongtian's hand became brighter and brighter. Specks of dust floated around the mace. These specks of dust flickered with a dreamy light from time to time, as if they were specks of dust compressed from gems. Turning the macroscopic into the microscopic, what a profound technique! Amidst the extreme speed, Yi Chen felt as if time had stopped. He looked at the treasured mace in Chu Zhongtian's hand and the dreamy dust surrounding it. He knew that this move was definitely not ordinary, and it probably had a different kind of destructive power. Destruction sword intent, sky thunder cut. Pouring the destruction sword intent into the thunder sword, Yi Chen raised the sword high and hacked out, leaving a bright arc of light in the air. Dong! Pitter-patter! The sword and the talisman clashed. First, there was a loud sound, followed by countless small explosions. Between the two of them, countless small fireworks exploded. You actually broke my fragmentation mace. While being blown away by the shockwave, Chu Zhongtian's pupils shrank. As the user of the fragmentation mace, only he knew how powerful this move was. Those specks of dust might not seem to have any destructive power, but if one underestimated them and allowed them to get close to the body, no matter how strong one's defense was, one would still be blown half to death. That was because every speck of dust contained a lot of Zhen Yuan, and the moment it exploded, it would be extremely terrifying. However, Yi Chen had blocked his attack and detonated the specks of dust, causing the fragmentation mace to fail to achieve its intended effect. Very good, you have the qualifications to make me take you seriously. Chu Zhongtian stopped his body and stepped into the air. Dragging his longsword backward, Yi Chen stopped as well. He looked up and said, If you have any powerful attacks or hidden power, just use them all. In front of me, you have no advantage at all. Haha, don't be so full of yourself. This fragmentation mace isn't my strongest move. Moreover, I feel that it's time to increase my battle power. As he spoke, an extremely dazzling yet not glaring dark red light burst out from Chu Zhongtian's body. His entire body seemed to be made of diamond, because how could a human's body endure such pure Zhen Yuan? The purity of this Zhen Yuan surpassed everyone else's. Fire spirit body, wrong? Earth spirit body, wrong as well? Jing Aoshuan and Li Xiaoyun were guessing astral spirit son's constitution. They had never fought with this person before, so they knew very little about him. They only knew that he had the strength to kill ordinary spirit warriors. This couldn't be faked, and no one would do so. However, neither the fire spirit body nor the earth spirit body were this tyrannical. The latter's constitution seemed to have surpassed the elemental spirit body, which was why he could endure purer and more explosive Zhen Yuan. Fortunately, he hadn't condensed a true martial soul. Otherwise, he would be even more frightening. The superiority of innate talent could sometimes obliterate a lifetime's worth of effort. Yi Chen, receive this mace of mine, and I'll admit that you're my opponent. Although Chu Zhongtian had turned serious, there were degrees of seriousness. Evidently, this was only ordinary seriousness. Can Yi Chen do it? The Zhen Yuan bursting out of astral spirit sun's body is already not inferior to any spirit warrior. It's just that the quantity is a bit smaller. Yeah. This is my first time seeing an astral reaching expert with Sea of Soul Realm Zhen Yuan. Everyone knew how frightening astral spirit sun was. Therefore, they were more partial to him. After all, the former was famous here, while Yi Chen had no fame in the southern sector. Yi Chen didn't reply, nor did he explain. He only made a single movement, which was to return the thunder sword to its sheath. Then, his body faintly trembled, like a peerless sword shaking off the dust on its body, once again blossoming with a resplendent radiance. Bang! The soaring sword intent was as viscous as water, soaring straight into the clouds. The sea of clouds was torn apart, revealing a spiral-shaped hole. Stunning sky was torn apart, and the purest yuan qi inside couldn't leak out, completely sealed by the sword intent. To tear apart stunning sky by relying on sword intent alone, how powerful was this sword intent? Edict Prince Li Xiaoyun raised his head, his eyes squinting into a line as he said word by word, Quasi-Master Sword Intent. Quasi-Master Sword Intent and Master Sword Intent had similar foundations, but the latter blossomed with sword intent radiance. In other words, as long as the Quasi-Master Sword Intent blossomed with radiance, it would immediately advance to Master Sword Intent. However, in any case, Quasi-Master Sword Intent was already the strongest sword intent under Master Grade. In terms of might, it was more or less the same as Master Grade Martial Will. Chu Zhongtian was stunned, and his expression immediately turned gloomy. He originally thought that exchanging pointers with the opponent was already giving him a lot of face. But now, the situation seemed to have reversed. The opponent exchanging pointers with him was also giving him face, and it turned into him challenging the opponent, while the latter's sword intent continued to rise. Take my attack. Tyrant Dragon Rapier Destruction. His figure flashed as Chu Zhongtian grabbed the dark red rapier with both of his hands, exploding with speed. A tangible light shot out from Yi Chen's eyes as he pulled out the destruction sword with his right hand and held the thunder sword's hilt with his left hand, accumulating power and lowering his center of gravity. Whoosh! Before Chu Zhongtian arrived, the strong wind had already blown Yi Chen's long black hair into the air, making it look like a black waterfall. Coupled with his handsome and elegant face, he looked like a sword artist from a painting. Arriving above Yi Chen in an instant, Chu Zhongtian raised the rapier in his hand high up. A blazing dark red stream shot out like a dark red demonic dragon, making him look like a deity. One was extremely moving, the other extremely calm. It formed a miraculous scene where even the wind stopped moving. Break! Chu Zhongtian roared and hacked down with the rapier. Chop! Yi Chen waved his left and right hands at the same time. Two sword lights slashed out, interweaving into an irregular cross shape, dividing the space in front of him into 4 parts. Tyrant Dragon Rapier Destruction. Sky Thunder Cut, Reverse Sky Thunder Cut. The two killing moves collided. The crowd could not hear anything at all. They could only see a huge mottled light ball wrapping around the two, making it impossible to see their figures. Boom! A dark red demonic dragon rushed out and tore the light ball apart. Poochie! A sword mark appeared on the other side of the light ball as sword lights soared into the sky. The next moment, a shockwave spread out like a flash flood. In the blink of an eye, it covered the sky of dozens of li. At the center of the shockwave, a dark red and dark blue light beam pierced through the clouds and soared into the sky. Look, the buildings outside the splendid garden are weathering. The streets are also sinking. Someone saw a shocking scene. The sturdy buildings made of thunder-veined stones had turned into fine sand, scattering with a breeze. It filled the entire sky, and the streets were also filled with dust and sinking rapidly. The destructive power created by the exchange between the two shocked everyone once again. Not only were the spectators of the younger generation shocked, Even the experts in Thunder City were shocked. What level of battle could affect such a large area? Was the level of this year's tea gathering really that high? The corner of Jing Aoshuan's mouth twitched. Fortunately, the splendid garden was protected by a restrictive power. Otherwise, under this attack, the entire garden would have been obliterated. As for the buildings outside the garden, they were not residential buildings. Since the martial tea gathering was taking place, there was no one there. Otherwise, who knew how many people would have died under the aftermath? Pung! In the sky, Chu Zhongtian's body flew backwards. The clothes on his chest had a crisscrossed sword mark, revealing his skin and muscles. His skin and muscles did not suffer any injuries, only 2 white marks were left, and his muscles were slightly dented. However, his expression was one of extreme anger, as if his dignity had been challenged. An even more terrifying aura erupted from his body, boiling wantonly. As his opponent, Yi Chen only took 3 steps back before stopping his body and looking at the retreating Chu Zhongtian with an indifferent expression. Not only is his Zhen Yuan powerful, his physical body is also terrifyingly strong. Even the dual sword style couldn't hurt him. Yi Chen frowned slightly. The power of the dual sword style was obvious to all. When one's power was raised to the same level, the power of the dual sword style would be equivalent to a profound martial skill at 40% completion. And this was because Yi Chen had only learned the basics of the dual sword style. Even so, it was still extremely powerful. Chapter 467. Buzz. Stamping his foot in the void, a circular ripple spread out, and Chu Zhongtian forcibly stabilized his body. He calmed his boiling blood and qi, then looked straight at Yi Chen, who was 1,000 meters away, and coldly said, "You are the first astral-reaching expert to force me back. You can be proud of yourself. However, that's all. Next, I will suppress you in all aspects until I obtain victory. You'd better prepare yourself." Down below, South Rudra region's people creased their brows. This astral spirit son was too arrogant. In the exchange just now, everyone could see that Yi Chen had the absolute upper hand. Although they didn't know why he hadn't injured Astral Spirit Son, Yi Chen's strength had already explained everything. Suppress me in all aspects? Yi Chen shook his head. No, you can't do it. Chu Zhongtian faintly smiled. Perhaps you think I'm arrogant and egotistical. But when I display my ultimate power before you, you'll know your own ignorance. Ultimate power. The spectators below didn't pay attention to Chu Zhongtian's tone and attitude. Instead, their curiosity was piqued by his last words. What was ultimate power? Jing Aoshuan and Li Xiaoyun exchanged a glance. In truth, although the battle between Chu Zhongtian and Yi Chen was world-shaking, it wasn't enough to move them. But now, it seemed like Chu Zhongtian was still concealing his strength. They wondered if Yi Chen had any other trump cards. Hearing these words, Yi Chen's gaze flickered. At this point, it was almost time for both sides to reveal their true strength. Letting out a light breath, Yi Chen said, "Ignorance is the language of gods." Saying the word ignorance means that your self-confidence is inflating. Very well, let me see your ultimate power. The two confronted each other with intense battle intent. Whether I'm ignorant or not, let me show you. Glancing at Yi Chen, Chu Zhongtian closed his eyes and relaxed his body to its most natural state. He then spread his arms as if embracing the sun. Zhen Yuan, full release. Chu Zhongtian's relaxed body suddenly tightened. An extremely frightening and overbearing aura burst out from his body. The moment this aura burst out, every single pore on Chu Zhongtian's body exuded dark red streams of air. The streams of air curled up like smoke and mist. That was not all. The streams of air suddenly moved at a high speed, turning from a mist to a crystalline shape. They were like strands of dark red silk that were tens of thousands of years old. Not even treasured weapons could cut them. It must be known that the number of dark red crystal threads that were flowing out from Chu Zhongtian's body was more than 10 million. At that moment, the sun in the sky lost its color, and the whole world seemed to have turned black and white. Only the place where Chu Zhongtian stood had bright colors, and the color dyed the space red. Rumble. The ultra-high density of true essence immediately caused the world to change. In the sky above, dark clouds covered the sky, lightning flashed, and wind and rain swayed. Within Thunder City, hurricanes swept out without rhyme or reason, and the hurricanes battered towards all directions. The front of the hurricanes even converged into a wave of air that broke and snapped some flagpoles that were stuck at the entrance of the street. On the mountain river platform, everyone felt it the most. In their eyes, the weather seemed to have changed from a sunny summer to a rainy season. The surroundings were gray and gloomy, and Chu Zhongtian, who was high up in the sky, had turned the place he was in into a dark red world. He was the king of that world. This. Jing Aoshuan and Li Xiaoyun's eyes were filled with bewilderment. What kind of physique can give birth to such a frightening Zhen Yuan? Li Xiaoyun thought hard. Jing Aoshuan said solemnly, a dark red Zhen Yuan, a physique that surpasses the attribute of a spirit body. Could it be the evil spirit body? The moment the words evil spirit body came out, even Jing Aoshuan, who mentioned the evil spirit body, had a solemn expression, not to mention Li Xiaoyun. Who would have thought that the evil spirit body that only appears once in 10,000 years would be born? This is truly a peak era. From the looks of it, what Chu Zhongtian has is not Zhen Yuan, but evil Yuan, which is above Zhen Yuan and belongs to the evil spirit body. Ha ha ha! A thunderous laughter came from the sky, and it came from Chu Zhongtian. My physique is the evil spirit body that only appears once in 10,000 years, and what I cultivate is not Zhen Yuan, but evil Yuan, which is several times stronger than Zhen Yuan. One move, and I can defeat you. Evil spirit body, so that's how it is. Yi Chen finally understood why Chu Zhongtian's Zhen Yuan was so pure and frightening. The combination of two Yuan Qis with different attributes was called astral Qi. Similarly, the combination of two Zhen Yuan with different attributes was called evil Yuan. The might of astral Qi was several times stronger than ordinary Yuan Qi, and evil Yuan was naturally several times stronger than Zhen Yuan. Normally speaking, it was impossible for humans to have astral essence. It was not only because of the endurance of the body, but also because of the conflicting attribute. Humans were not like nature. Nature could allow two different attributes of origin Qi to fuse together, but humans could not. Therefore, if one wanted to have astral essence, it was impossible to rely on artificial means. The only way was to rely on talent. And this talent was precisely the evil spirit body. Those who possessed the evil spirit body were born with a compound attribute, be it metal and wind, wood and water, fire and earth, and so on. Possessing any one of these compound attributes meant that one could combine the two corresponding types of true essence together to form astral essence. If his guess was correct, then Chu Zhongtian's astral essence should be a combination of fire attribute true essence and earth attribute true essence. This was called fire-earth astral essence, also known as fire-earth astral essence. Of course, although the evil spirit body was called a spirit body, it was actually different from a spirit body. Those with a single attribute spirit body were most proficient in cultivating the corresponding Zhen Yuan, and could achieve twice the result with half the effort, or even several times. The same was true for comprehending concepts and profound meanings, such as Jing Aoshuan's thunder spirit body. But the evil spirit body was not a combination of two different attributes, otherwise it would be several times more terrifying, and even Yi Chen would be killed in a second. The universe seemed to limit the excessively powerful constitution. The evil spirit body was a combination of two relatively compatible attributes. Individually, it was much weaker than an attribute spirit body. Only by combining them could it surpass an attribute spirit body. In other words, Chu Zhongtian's evil spirit body was not a combination of fire and earth spirit bodies, but a combination of two attributes that were slightly weaker than an attribute spirit body. There was no doubt about this. In any case, the combination of the two Zhenyuan was too powerful. The Zhenyuan's power increased several times, and so did the quality. In the same environment, Chu Zhongtian's battle strength was several times stronger than a martial artist of the same realm. This was Chu Zhongtian's ultimate strength. What? Evil spirit body. Evil spirit body. Chu Zhongtian's ultimate strength is actually this. It is said that the evil spirit body has not appeared for nearly 5,000 years, and in the past, it was rare to see one in 10,000 years. Who would have thought that it would appear in advance, and this person is Chu Zhongtian. If Chu Zhongtian did not say it, many people would not have thought of it. The evil spirit body was too mysterious, and they had only heard some ancient rumors. They did not know whether it was true or not, so they naturally would not think about it in this direction. But now Chu Zhongtian took the initiative to say it. Recalling the rumors about the evil spirit body, their eyes turned sluggish, filled with disbelief. They did not know how powerful the evil spirit body was. They only knew that every time an evil spirit body appeared, it would set off a battle of geniuses that affected the whole continent. At this time, the number of geniuses on the continent was much higher than usual, and the evil spirit body was one of the kings among the many talents, the apex talent. Every person who possessed the evil spirit physique had a legendary personal experience, and was nearly invincible in the world. One must know that a small improvement for others would be a big improvement for those who possessed the evil spirit physique. Even if they fell behind for a moment, they might surpass them in the next moment. The evil spirit body was a monstrous physique. Sooner or later, those with the evil spirit body would also become monstrous characters. This was a gift from the heavens favoring them. This is too unexpected. Chu Zhongtian is arrogant, and he has the capital to be arrogant. This can't be blamed on him. Those with the evil spirit body are born with different personalities. They may be extremely bloodthirsty, cold, or arrogant. This is related to the composition of the compound attribute, which influences and shapes their character. Although I was a little optimistic about Yi Chen, I have to admit that in front of a monstrous talent, effort and perception will be erased. No, physique is only a narrow sense of talent. In fact, those who can become geniuses all have their own talent. You can't become a genius by relying on effort. You're right. Geniuses, natural talent. They all have talent, but the form is different. Everyone was discussing, both surprised and shocked. The appearance of the evil spirit body meant that this was indeed a peak era. Now they were even more certain. Tuabaku, will Yi Chen lose? Mu Lingfeng looked at Tuabaku. Tuabaku shook his head. I don't know, but he can't be blamed for losing. Chu Zhongtian's talent is too powerful. His battle power is several times that of the same realm warriors. Who can resist him? In the sky, Chu Zhongtian held the dark red rapier in his right hand and raised it high above his head. An extremely bright dark red light condensed on the tip of the rapier, and the area instantly turned into a vacuum. I can defeat you in one move. Chu Zhongtian looked down at Yi Chen, his pupils slightly dark red. Monstrous talent. Hee, then my innately powerful soul can also be considered a monstrous talent, right? Let's see who is more monstrous. Yi Chen shook his head, his eyes suddenly turning deep. His forehead swelled like a diamond bead, and the swollen part actually released a radiance that almost didn't exist in this world. Buzz. The black and white color faded away, the dark clouds dispersed, and the thunder disappeared. An incorporeal sword intent soared into the sky. What was even more frightening was that although the sword intent this time was still invisible and could only be felt, wherever the sword intent touched, a radiance was born. This was the radiance of sword intent. When the sword intent gave birth to a radiance, it would be the master-level sword intent. The master-level sword intent had already surpassed the boundary between illusion and reality. Wherever there was radiance, it would be the sword intent. The eyes could see it, and they could even feel it. It made the sword intent become real. Chapter 468. Master-level sword intent. Li Xiaoyun suddenly stood up, his face full of shock. Jing Aoshuan looked at the sword intent radiance in a daze, then let out a breath and said, "Judging from this aspect alone, he is definitely the number one since the ancient times. In the peak era, all kinds of body types have appeared. Now, it is time for the soul and will geniuses to appear." Every time the peak era arrived, the warriors in the continent would have a feast for their eyes, because all kinds of talents that had appeared in the history would appear one after another. For example, the elemental spirit body, the evil spirit body, and the talent in will like Yi Chen. It was said that there were also many other talents that were not inferior to the others, such as the innate great Dharma body, which was rarely seen in 100,000 years. People with such Dharma bodies would have Zhen Yuan 10 times, or even dozens of times more than ordinary people. As long as these people did not die, their achievements would be shocking. The peak era, the competition has never been so intense. Li Xiaoyun's eyes were filled with passion. That kind of passion was something that ordinary people could not describe. They did not understand the feeling of standing at the peak. Jing Aoshuan, originally, I only wanted to exchange pointers with you. There was no need for a winner or loser. But now I've changed my mind. You, me, and the two of them, we need to have a winner or loser. Only a winner or loser can make all of us improve. Exchanging pointers will not solve any big problems. Jing Aoshuan said lightly, "This is also what I wanted to say. In the future competition among the geniuses of the continent, only one person can stand at the peak and look down on the whole world." Boom! While the two were talking, Chu Zhongtian threw out his most powerful attack toward Yi Chen. It was still the tyrant dragon destruction, but it was twice as powerful as before. The dark red demonic dragon chi almost shattered the void as it slashed down. Sky Thunder Cut. Reverse Sky Thunder Cut. The light on Yi Chen's forehead did not dissipate as he held the Thunder Sword in his left hand and the Destruction Sword in his right hand. The two swords slashed toward the same point, crisscrossing and bursting out. A dreamy sword intent radiance shot out like a silver galaxy in the sky, deep and unshakable. Rumble! This time, the two of them were fighting at an altitude of 10,000 meters. Destructive energy shockwaves radiated out, creating a mottled light ball with a diameter of several tens of meters. The light ball rapidly expanded in a spiral shape, and soon became several miles in size. Finally, it exploded, shaking the world and causing the air to flow more than 1,000 times faster. Evil spirit body is also several times stronger than ordinary people. You can't hurt me. Chu Zhongtian was sent flying. His face was filled with shock at first, and then he roared in anger. He didn't expect that Yi Chen's battle prowess would rise to such an extent. Not only did Yi Chen suppress him, but he also sent him flying again. This was something he didn't expect at all. If one time isn't enough, then 10 times. Yi Chen only took half a step back. After that, he turned around and rushed forward, displaying the twin sword style once again. Clang! The intersecting sword light exploded in front of Chu Zhongtian, and the dark red rapier almost flew out of his hand. This attack made Chu Zhongtian fly back even faster. Every time a circular shockwave appeared around his body, his flying speed would increase by 1-fold. 3 times, which meant 3 times the speed of sound. This might be the fastest backward speed in a battle between astral-reaching realm expert. Damn it, stop right there. Chu Zhongtian's body shook violently, and the air behind him exploded. The resulting explosive power cancelled out the power of flying back, and he seized the opportunity to stop himself from flying back. Shoo! Ignoring his boiling qi and blood, Chu Zhongtian's evil yuan exploded, dodging Yi Chen's third attack. Such a fast speed! This time, Yi Chen was a bit surprised. It seemed like the evil yuan had not only increased Chu Zhongtian's battle prowess, but it had also increased his defense and speed to an unimaginable level. Even if he was very arrogant, Yi Chen wouldn't be able to beat him quickly. No, it would be very difficult to beat him down. He was like a cockroach that couldn't be beaten. Fragmenting rapier. A fine dust appeared, and as Chu Zhongtian dodged, he threw out a rapier attack at Yi Chen. Chin. The thunder sword in his left hand sliced out in the opposite direction, and Yi Chen blocked out Chu Zhongtian's attack. He even sent a part of the energy back, giving him a taste of his own medicine. Hee hee. Chu Zhongtian sneered as he formed a fist with his left hand and punched out, shattering the energy wave. Down below, Tuabaku mumbled to himself, "This battle is not going to be that easy to decide." He naturally knew that Yi Chen was more powerful, but it didn't mean that Chu Zhongtian was like a fish on a chopping board, waiting to be slaughtered. The difference between the two was only a thin line. Plus, Chu Zhongtian's speed and defense were so freakish, which cancelled out Yi Chen's advantage. The others were thinking the same thing as Tuabaku. In fact, when Yi Chen exploded with his master-level sword intent, it was what shocked them the most, and they would never be able to forget it. Chin 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 chin, the two exchanged blows in the sky, and the sparks from the collision of their weapons never stopped. Whenever one side lit up, the other side would appear as well. Perhaps, only by directly hitting his body would I be able to wound him. After forcing back Chu Zhongtian with one sword attack, Yi Chen thought to himself, "You are able to raise your sword intense power to master level, which is indeed very powerful. Even I have to admire you. But, with the evil spirit body, I am unbeatable. Even two of you together would not be enough." Chu Zhongtian had already understood that wanting to beat Yi Chen beautifully was just a pipe dream. Right now, the only thing he could do was to exhaust his opponent's power and use a prolonged battle to defeat him. "Is that so?" Yi Chen glanced at the corner of his eyes, and his figure instantly appeared on the right side of Chu Zhongtian. The light he brought up was like a sword light, giving people the illusion that he was using his body to perform a sword art. What kind of step art is this? Chu Zhongtian was caught off guard as he hurried to raise his rapier to block. Clang! 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 Yi Chen attacked 64 times, and 3 of them broke through Chu Zhongtian's defense, landing on his shoulder, chest, and arm. The sound of clothes tearing rang out as Chu Zhongtian retreated with a gloomy face. Using the body as a sword, is this the unity of man and sword? Jing Aoshuan was a little confused. Li Xiaoyun shook his head. No, an ordinary unity of man and sword would not be able to move as freely as this. This is still a sword art, but he has turned himself into a sword art. However, the unity of man and sword is about the inseparability of man and sword. There is a subtle difference between the two. Whether it was the unity of man and sword or not, or he had turned himself into a sword, Chu Zhongtian was very passive. After all, Yi Chen's sword art was already very powerful, and now, even his step art was a sword art. His reaction was inevitably a beat slower, and he could not grasp the initiative. Chi. The clothes on his back were torn open as Chu Zhongtian hurried to turn around and wave his rapier. No, normal attacks would not be able to do anything to him. I have to land a killing attack. The rapier's shadow brushed past his chest. Yi Chen lifted up his left hand and flicked his finger. Boom! The dark red rapier in his hand was blown away, and the sword chi spread out. Chu Zhongtian knew that it was not good, since he had forgotten that Yi Chen's fingers could also release sword chi. Moreover, it was even more powerful than normal sword chi, almost as powerful as an ace attack. Cut! Seizing the opportunity, Yi Chen's speed exploded. His 2 swords, one in front and the other in the back, attacked out. Impossible! Chu Zhongtian threw out his left fist. A metal exploding sound was heard as the sword light on Chu Zhongtian's fist sliced through, leaving behind 2 intersecting white marks. Burning sparks shot out everywhere, covering more than 1 mile. Meanwhile, Chu Zhongtian's feet felt weak, and he was blown away. A battle of this level has already surpassed my imagination. I simply can't imagine how an astral-reaching expert could possess such a frightening battle power. Yeah, Astral Spirit Sun has the Astral Spirit Body, which boosts his battle power and defense. No wonder he could kill a spirit warrior. Yi Chen is even more frightening. He has already displayed the sharpness of a sword artist to the extreme. Astral Spirit Sun can't have an easy time against him, and is completely suppressed. This is a peak confrontation, a battle of the highest level among the young generation of Southern Sector. On the platform, everyone was extremely excited. Their eyes were unblinkingly watching the battle in the sky, although they couldn't see the actual content of the battle. Dark Flame Annihilation Wave. Being forced into a corner by Yi Chen, Chu Zhongtian used the Dark Flame Annihilation Wave, which had the widest range but was slightly inferior in single-target attacks. With a swing of the mace, a dark red radiance shot out in a fan shape, soaring into the sky and submerging Yi Chen within. Those with good eyesight could see a gap in the fan shape. Faintly, one could see a human figure standing there with two swords crossed, repelling the dark red radiance. Tyrant Dragon Mace Destruction. Seizing the upper hand for the first time, Chu Zhongtian flew into the dark red radiance, which had yet to dissipate. His mace descended from the sky and fiercely chopped down. A dragon roar resounded in the sky, and the dark red demonic dragon Chi Flow wreaked havoc. However, the next moment, the demonic dragon Chi Flow was decapitated, and the blue-robed Yi Chen rushed out, sweeping his sword horizontally, scattering a crescent moon-like sword light. Truly repulsive. Chu Zhongtian had already used up all of his power, so he had no choice but to raise his mace to block and back out. Not good. I can only perform the 9th movement of the Green Lotus Sword Arts. Only the 9th movement can open a gap in his defense and create an opportunity. With that thought, Yi Chen put away his Thunder Sword and Destruction Sword, and the Greenwood Sword bounced out. The Greenwood Sword shone with a soft blue light. Within the light there seemed to be countless plants growing, full of vitality. Carrying the Greenwood Sword, Yi Chen chased after Chu Zhongtian. The Greenwood Sword twirled in his hand and then stabbed out close to nature. The 9th movement of the Green Lotus Sword Arts. Life, life, life. Chu Zhongtian opened his eyes wide, watching the sword light enlarge in front of his eyes. That sword attack was so mysterious. It did not seem to be a sword art but the process of plants growing. Under this sword attack that seemed to be in harmony with nature, Chu Zhongtian realized that no matter how hard he tried to dodge, he would not be able to avoid it. 50%. Jing Aoshuan, who was watching from below, could not help but blurt out. Before comprehending the profound, one could only comprehend a 50% profound martial art at most. However, Yi Chen's sword attack had obviously reached the critical point. In other words, with one more step, Yi Chen would be able to comprehend a bit of the wood profound. At that time, the realm would be completely different. Since I can't dodge it, then there is no need to dodge. Chu Zhongtian roared, holding the dark red rapier in his hand and attacking with all of his power. Pooh! The sword and rapier clashed. Chu Zhongtian's power was shattered the moment it touched the rapier, and his hand started to bleed. Meanwhile, Yi Chen's sword attack seemed to have endless power. It seemed to be unstoppable. This sword attack was even more horrifying than the double sword attack.